Chapter 891. Why aren't you going back? For looked at Qin Zhao, who was still sitting on the walkway. Not only that, but his head was also bandaged. There were even 2 drops of red liquid on the bandage. Are you afraid that people won't know your head is injured? I plan to stay here for 2 days. What kind of grudge do you have against that person? I don't know what you're talking about. Look at the bandage on my head. I have a concussion. I need to stay here for observation. Val rolled her eyes. To be able to say that so smoothly, you don't have a concussion, my ass. It wasn't her first day knowing Qin Zhao. She knew Qin Zhao like the back of her hand. Then why are you sitting here? Just then, a nurse walked over. Mr. Qin, your hospitalization procedures have been completed. Please follow me. Thank you. Qin Zhao left with the nurse's help. Fore patted her head. She took out her phone and called Fei Lai. Fei Lai, aren't you going to control your man? What happened to Qin? He's in the hospital now. Hospital? Did he steal business from your hospital again? No, he's here to do business, Fore said. He's in the hospital now. Huh? Chen Xing is sick? Or injured? No, he's just bored and wants to stay. Fei Lai was speechless. Dominic sat in the orthopedic consultation room. Holofan stood beside him. Mr. Dominic, your leg injury is very serious. It's been a while and the wound is showing signs of infection. I suggest you stay in the hospital immediately. If I stay in the hospital, how long will it take for me to recover? At least 2 months. Plus, your injury is a bit complicated. Including the recovery period, it might take 3 months. What? 3 months? Dominic stood up abruptly. But when he moved, his thigh felt as if it was being pricked by needles. Doctor, does your hospital have any orthopedic specialists? Holofan asked. Dominic wants the best. The doctor answered calmly. Mr. Dominic, I'm the best orthopedic specialist in this hospital. The doctor answered calmly. He knew that the person before him was a famous football player in Europe. Thus, he was rather calm and restrained. There was another doctor who said that my injuries would heal in a month. That's impossible. The recovery period of a muscle strain takes a month. This involves a very complicated muscle growth rate. Although there are some special drugs that can speed up muscle growth, it's impossible to shorten the time by half. Moreover, the 2 months I gave you is already a very optimistic estimate. I want a world-class orthopedic expert. I don't think you're qualified. Dominic sounded very arrogant. The doctor said helplessly, Mr. Dominic, please go to other hospitals to try your luck. At least our hospital doesn't have a world-class orthopedic expert. Fuck, I told you not to get your hopes up in this rural hospital, Dominic said unhappily. Holofan helped Dominic out of the consultation room and saw Qin Zhao walking toward them. Qin Zhao was also supported by a nurse. His head was wrapped in bandages. He seemed to be heavily injured. Hey, isn't this Mr. Chen? What's wrong? Dominic walked over with a smile. None of your business. Qin Zhao glared at Dominic and Holofan. You're so injured and still don't know how to keep a low profile, Holofan said provocatively. Qin Zhao paused. Do you want to lie on the bed too? Holofan immediately stopped talking. He was really afraid that Qin Zhao would attack him. Let's go. He'll beg me sooner or later, Dominic said with a snort. Your brain must be damaged by the drugs. Do you think I'd beg you? Qin Zhao turned his head in disdain, ignoring the two. Holofan, call Mr. Charnan and tell him to come to the hospital, Dominic said. This is the hotel, right? Gaia looked up at the building where the hotel was. This is the biggest hotel in LA. There are thousands of rooms. How do we find him? Just check the guests. If he's our target, he should have a few puppets with him. For our year-end bonus. For everyone's vacation. Seeing Gaia and the others enter, the manager immediately walked over. Hi, do you need a room? Everyone looked at West. We're the police, West said. Police? Is it because of the murder that happened here a few days ago? Yes. We suspect that the murderer might still be in the hotel, so we need to investigate the guests. How can we cooperate? The manager asked. Take out the guest list. We need to check it. Okay. The manager didn't suspect West's identity, mainly because the police had been investigating and collecting evidence in the past few days. The manager went to the front desk and took out the guest list. Is there anything else I can help you with? Sir, Gaia said, I'd like to ask if there's a rumor that your hotel is haunted. No, there's no such thing. Sir, we're not reporters or your competitors, Gaia said. We won't spread rumors. We just suspect that the incident might be related to the murderer, and that it's an illusion created by the murderer. The manager hesitated. Finally, he admitted it and nodded. Indeed. When did it start? Last Thursday. Okay, thank you for your cooperation. If there's anything else, we'll ask for your help again. If there's nothing else, I'll leave now. After the manager left, West asked in confusion. Gaia, does this news have anything to do with the person we're looking for? First, we can confirm that the puppeteer has a ghost servant. I suspect that he purposely left the ghost servant in the hotel after he checked in. That's why the haunting happened. So, we started investigating the day before last Thursday and have been here until today. That way, we can narrow down the scope. Everyone understood. If it were them, they would probably compare the rooms one by one. Many people. They stayed here for at least 8 days. Yes, there's a group of people here. Moore pointed at the screen of the computer and said, there were 6 people in total, and they booked 2 rooms. One of them was a deluxe suite, and only 1 person lived in it. The other was an ordinary suite, and 5 people lived in it. That's it, Gaia said. Which room? 18th floor, room 501. It's a single room. The person staying there is called Shanong. Chapter 892. Everyone stood outside the door and exchanged glances. Gaia gestured. Jalad, kick the door. I'll go in first. Gaia was still worried that they'd rush in first. After all, she wasn't sure what they'd encounter, so she, the thick-skinned one, should go first. 3, 2, 1. Gaia gestured a countdown. Jalad kicked the door open. Gaia charged into the room. The person who was sitting on the sofa suddenly jumped up. Who are you? Everyone looked at the person before them. His eyes were glowing green. Your captor! Gaia's arm glowed red. Seeing Gaia's arm, the person turned and ran. Gaia immediately chased after him, but the person crashed into the glass on the wall. With a crash, the man smashed through the glass on the ground and fell outside. Everyone was stunned. They ran to the window and looked down. The person had fallen onto the road below, his body smashed to pieces. Dead? No, Giselle suddenly shouted. He's not a puppeteer, he's a puppet. Then what about the puppeteer? Oh no, we've been tricked, Gaia shouted. The puppeteer actually lives in the same room as the other puppets. He purposely separated them to make us think that the puppeteer lives here. Go to the 16th floor. But when Gaia and the others rushed to the 16th floor, they found that there was no one in the suite. Damn, the puppeteer got away. Maybe he hasn't gone far. Let's chase. A taxi stopped by the roadside. The driver looked at the 5 people in the car. 4 of them were wearing sunglasses. Sir, my car is small. It can't fit 5 people. Sitting in the passenger seat, Charnon took out a stack of money and handed it to the driver. This is for you, Chantilly Hospital. Thank you. Seeing how generous they were, the driver didn't say anything else. Charnon's phone rang again. It was from Dominic. Picking it up, Charnon said, I'll be there soon. From the rearview mirror, he could see Gaia and the others rushing out of the hotel. Charnon's lips curled up. He had long since gotten used to the process of being teased like a cat playing with a mouse. But no one had ever been able to catch him. It was because of his cautiousness and carefulness. On the road in front of the hotel, Gaia and the others split up and searched on both sides. After searching for a long time, he still couldn't find anyone, so he could only return to the front of the hotel. How is it? No. Not at all. Everyone was disappointed. This was the closest they had ever come to finding the real culprit. But after this, it would not be so easy to find that puppeteer again. By the way, there are surveillance cameras in the hotel lobby. You can watch them. Everyone returned to the hotel, found the lobby manager, and retrieved the surveillance footage. These are the 5 people living in room 501 on the 16th floor. The lobby manager pointed at the people in the surveillance screen. Thank you. After Gaia sent the manager away, he said, Among the 5 of them, only the dark-skinned one isn't wearing sunglasses. The other 4 are wearing sunglasses. This person is the puppeteer. Keep a copy of the puppet master's photo on everyone's phone. After sending the message, Gaia's phone rang. Gaia, who is this man? Why are you sending me a stranger's photo? This is the real culprit who hurt-a-doos, the puppeteer. We found that his registered name is Chanin, but we don't know if that's his real name. Okay. By the way, where are you now? In the hospital. Seeing a patient? No, I'm in the hospital. Don't joke around. You're sick? Actually, I was beaten up and sent to the hospital. This is even funnier than the previous one. Someone beat you up and sent you to the hospital? Gaia listened to Qinzhao's voice. It was full of energy. He didn't sound sick or injured at all. Okay, I'm just bored, so I came to the hospital for 2 days. With that, he sent a selfie to Gaia. Pfft! Gaia burst out laughing when she saw it. Everyone gathered around and saw Qinzhao's selfie on Gaia's phone. They all looked at each other. West yelled in shock. The president is injured? Who did it? No way? Did some terrifying existence come to LA? Even the president is injured. How terrifying is it? Is it too late for me to leave the supernatural organization now? Gaia looked at the embarrassed people. If you go visit Chen with flowers and fruits, maybe he'll be in a good mood and give you your year-end bonus. Huh, that makes sense. Then let's go visit the president now. Everyone rushed to the hospital in a swarm. Qinzhao had only been in the hospital for less than half a day, but he already regretted it. How could he be so stupid to really stay in the hospital? Whatever. No matter what, he'd already done the admission procedures. He had to stay for at least 1 night. But it was so boring. He really wanted to find someone to teach him a lesson. Qinzhao walked out of the single room and pushed the infusion rack. Whistling, he strolled along the corridor of the hospital. Just then, he saw 4 in front of the medical counter. She seemed to be talking to the medical staff. Hi, 4. 4 glanced at Qinzhao and then ignored him. She turned to leave. Qinzhao immediately chased after her. Are you done eating? My treat. Are you bored? You can go home right now. Falico's still home. No, I have to stay for 1 night. At least 1 night. How much do you hate that person? Not too much, but I've already planned his life, Qinzhao said. First, I'll bankrupt his company and then send him to prison. I'll find a few big black men and have them stay in the same room as him. Qinzhao's spittle flew everywhere. 4 was really not interested in listening anymore. Qinzhao immediately chased after her. Where did you go? Didn't you say you'd treat me to dinner? Fine, what do you want to eat? 4 brought Qinzhao to the hospital's cafeteria. It was a buffet. 4 watched as Qinzhao placed the entire plate of spaghetti on the table. She was speechless. Holding her forehead, she looked at Qinzhao. Are you sure you can finish it? Of course. Do you want to bet? $100. Just then, a patient at a nearby table pushed $100 over. I bet you can't finish it. Qinzhao stood up. Anyone else want to bet? Let's see if I can finish this plate of spaghetti. More and more people gathered around Qinzhao and 4. Chapter 893. I'll bet $20. You can't finish it. 30. Ditto. I'll bet $50. This is 10 servings of spaghetti. One person can't finish it. Qin Zhao held the fork in one hand and the basin in the other. Is there no one else to bet? Then I'll start eating. 4 was speechless. She thought that Qin Zhao was really bored out of his mind. But soon, Qin Zhao finished half of the spaghetti. Fuck, he really finished it? No way. How can he finish so much? The small amount of spaghetti wasn't a challenge to Qin Zhao at all. Chen, is your stomach bigger than other people's? A doctor who knew Qin Zhao asked. Then, Qin Zhao ran to the counter and used the spaghetti bowl to fill it with steaks. The densely packed steaks piled up in the bowl was too visually shocking. Come, let's continue. Is there anyone who wants to bet? Let's continue. Everyone only needs to bet $100. If I lose, everyone will have to bet $1,000. There's at least 15 kilograms of steaks here, right? You just ate so much spaghetti. You can't possibly eat so much steak. I don't believe it either. I'll bet $100. You won't go back on your words, right? For felt that Qin Zhao was here to scam money. In just a short while, another dozen doctors, nurses, and patients who didn't believe him placed their bets one after another. They really didn't believe that someone could finish such a huge basin of steaks. Qin Zhao had eaten 10 servings of spaghetti. Even if he was on an empty stomach, he wouldn't be able to finish so much steak. But after Qin Zhao started eating, their doubts turned to hesitation, then to regret, and finally to despair. Qin Zhao stuffed the steaks into his mouth piece by piece. After chewing a few times, he swallowed without stopping. Everyone watched as the steaks in the basin decreased bit by bit. When Qin Zhao swallowed the last piece of steak, everyone exclaimed in surprise. I did it! Of course, I also earned $1,300. Qin Zhao waved the money. Does anyone else want to bet? If you do, we'll continue until I lose. I don't believe you can keep eating. Come on, let's continue. I will win back all the money I lost. That's right, you have to spit out the money or your stomach acid. Qin Zhao went to get 10 more pizzas, using the same plate. Come on, place your bets. Same rules, you have to bet at least $100. If I lose, I will pay each of you $1,000. For looked at Qin Zhao worriedly. Qin Zhao had already eaten more than 20 kilograms. An adult man weighing 75 kilograms would need to consume about 3,000 to 3,500 calories a day. 7,000 calories could be compared to 1 kilogram of beef. In other words, a healthy man would consume less than 1 kilogram of beef a day. However, Qin Zhao had eaten at least a month's worth of calories for an adult. Chen, are you really okay? Qin Zhao grinned, revealing his pearly white teeth. Of course I'm fine. Do I look like I'm fine? Qin Zhao wasn't strong in other areas, but his digestive system wasn't something most people could compare to. The heat from the food was also spread to every corner of his body. Come on, start your performance. Someone yelled. Qin Zhao grabbed the pizza and started wolfing it down. Everyone swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Could it really be eaten? 10 minutes later, Qin Zhao finished all 10 pizzas. Everyone was so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths. Qin, I really want to cut your stomach open and see if there's an alternate dimension inside. Do you want to continue? Continue. 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 Everyone yelled, except for the owner of the restaurant. Of course, it was hard to ignore the crowd. Qin Zhao took another 15 fried chickens and countless roasted wings. Anyway, he filled the entire basin. I'll pay $10,000. A rich patient yelled. I don't believe you can finish this basin. Cash or check? Qin Zhao asked. Here's the check for $10,000. The bearded patient was generous too. He placed the check before Qin Zhao directly. Qin Zhao had cheated a lot of money already, so he didn't ask anyone to bet anymore. As Qin Zhao ate, he looked at the food counter. The waiters are putting the food away. Fuck, this is a buffet. They can't do this. 4 was speechless. Can't you finish the food in front of you first? You still have time to look at other places? Yes, you can't do this. Qin, I think you'll be blacklisted by this buffet. The waiters looked at the crowd helplessly and could only stop what they were doing. They stared at the manager, who waved his hand. Soon, chicken bones piled up in front of Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao picked up the check. "Waiters, can you bring me the 2 roasted lamb legs hanging there?" Everyone exclaimed again. The 2 lamb legs were at least 15 kilograms each. "You can still eat?" The bearded patient looked at Chen Zhao in disbelief. Not just him, everyone else had the same expression. It was as if they were looking at a monster. A glutton that would never be full. "I plan to finish all the food in the restaurant." Chen Zhao grabbed the roasted lamb leg that the waiters had brought over and started biting. As he ate, he said, "If you haven't eaten yet, you better eat some too. Otherwise, don't blame me if I finish everything." Everyone roared with laughter, but seeing Chen Zhao wolfing down the food, they all picked up their food too. While eating, they watched Chen Zhao's performance. Chen Zhao looked like a clown trying to please the crowd, but he didn't care. There was nothing wrong with indulging himself once in a while. Chen Zhao tossed the 2 lamb legs on the table. He was still not satisfied. Chen Zhao filled another bowl with sushi and seafood. Seeing Chen Zhao eat like this, everyone felt their taste buds open and their appetites increased. While eating, Chen Zhao taught them, "Don't eat too much. When you feel full, use your index finger to press below your ribs and belly button. If you feel pain, you have to stop, even if you think you can still eat. Are you in pain?" Chen Zhao pulled up his shirt and showed off his V-line. "Look at my stomach. Do I look full?" Everyone was speechless. Chen Zhao didn't even feel bloated. Did this guy really eat that much? Even Four found it unbelievable. Just how much could this fellow eat? Chapter 894. The moment Chen Zhao walked out of the restaurant, the waiter stuck his big head at the door. There was a line below, "This person is not welcome." When the people who followed him out saw the line in Chen Zhao's face, they couldn't stop smiling. If it was somewhere else, people might think that it was some kind of discrimination. But this time, they could completely understand why the restaurant owner did this. This was because Chen Zhao had finished all the food in the buffet. He didn't touch anything except the dessert section. He didn't forget about the food in the other sections. Four looked at him. "Are you really okay?" "I'm fine. I'll be fine after walking around." Others might not have carefully calculated it, but Four had. Chen Zhao had eaten at least 60 kilograms of food. But Chen Zhao seemed to be completely fine. A normal person definitely couldn't have this amount of food. More importantly, Chen Zhao didn't look like someone who had eaten so much at all. "You eat this much at home too?" Four had eaten with Chen Zhao before. In her memory, Chen Zhao also ate a lot, but he wasn't as open as this time. "Occasionally," Chen Zhao answered casually. "But you didn't eat so much the last few times I went to your house." "I restrained myself. I was afraid that you'd be hungry as guests." Four was speechless. "You're not going back to the ward? Let's walk around the field and digest." "You can't digest what you just ate just by walking around. It's best if someone comes here and beats him up." That guy came out of the restaurant. Shoal, what was he doing in there? "I've been in there for almost 2 hours," Dominic complained. A big star had come out personally to squat. More importantly, his bodyguards were all in the hospital. He was short of people now. Only Holofin was around. And Holofin was a talkative king. To put it bluntly, he bullied the weak and feared the strong. He was usually arrogant to everyone, but once someone glared at him, he would be like a turtle. "Why isn't Chain in here yet?" Holofin said unhappily. "This Shoal took our money. Is he going to stand us up?" Dominic glanced at Holofin. He only dared to say it now. If it was in front of Chan Nong, he would probably be like a grandson, not even daring to let out a fart. At this moment, 5 people walked toward them. "Is there something wrong with these people? Why are they wearing sunglasses in the middle of the night?" At this time, the 4 of them took off their sunglasses at the same time. Their eyes glowed green. Dominic and Holofin almost cried out in fright. Holofin even fell to the ground. The 4 puppets put on their sunglasses again. You guys! Cha Nong looked at Holofin condescendingly, with some coldness in his eyes. Are you Mr. Charnon? Dominic asked in a probing manner. Cut the crap. Where is he? He went that way. Mr. Chanin, let me lead the way. Holofin was like a lackey, guiding Cha Nong in front. At this time, the 3 of them saw 2 people sitting on a bench on the field. One of them was Qin Zhao, whom they were looking for. Qin Zhao also noticed the newcomer. Qin, they're coming this way. Do you know them? Maybe they know that I'm full, so they're here to help me digest. With Cha Nong's support, Dominic and Holofin were much more confident facing Qin Zhao. What a coincidence, Mr. Qin. We meet again. Dominic's tone was provocative. His eyes kept glancing at 4 beside Qin Zhao. Moving closer to Cha Nong, Dominic whispered, Mr. Chanin, control that woman too. I want her. Qin Zhao hadn't noticed Cha Nong at first. He thought that he was Dominic's bodyguard. But he heard Dominic's words. Cha Nong. So this guy was Cha Nong, the puppeteer. Qin Zhao smiled brightly. Qin, they don't seem friendly, 4 said worriedly. Let's go. Okay, you go first. I have some private things to deal with. You're not leaving? What are you going to do? Digest. At this moment, a few more people arrived from outside the sports field. They didn't walk over directly. Instead, they sat in the audience seats and kept looking over. Qin Zhao glanced at the newcomers. It was Gaia and the others. Gaia, should we go over and help? No, Qin can take care of it. But the president seems to be injured. Look at his head. It's wrapped in bandages and there's even blood. Do you really believe that Chen's injured? Isn't he? I get it, Giselle said, her eyes shining. This must be the president's plan. He's using the illusion that he's injured to bait the puppeteer. Pointing in Gaia's direction, Qin Zhao said to 4. Go sit with those people for a while. Huh? Who are they? My friends, Qin Zhao said. 4 thought about it. It seemed like Qin Zhao was going to fight. She couldn't help here either. Instead of staying here and causing trouble, she should give Qin Zhao some space. 4 knew that Qin Zhao was good at fighting. Half a year ago, they'd been on the way to Sacramento together. 4 had seen Qin Zhao's scary side. He'd killed those bandits with 1 punch. 4 walked up to Gaia and the others. Hi, are you Chen's friends? Yes. Miss, can I know your name? Can I have your phone number? Jalag asked. Gaia glanced at Jalag. She's Miss Feilai's sister. Are you sure you want her number? I'll pretend you didn't hear anything. Chanin looked back at Gaia and the others in the audience. He couldn't help but frown. He'd seen Gaia and the others through the puppets. He didn't expect them to appear here. Could it be that he had given himself away somewhere and exposed his tracks? Or could it be that this was a trap? Mr. Chanin, do it. Control this asterisk shoal. Chanin pointed at Qin Zhao. A puppet charged at him. Dominic and Holofin were both excited. They'd seen how terrifying Chanin's puppets were. It was as if they could already foresee Qin Zhao being beaten to the ground and then humiliated by them. Qin Zhao stretched and watched as the puppet approached him. Chapter 895. Huh! Charon was surprised. Dominic and Holofin were surprised too. Qin Zhao grabbed the puppet's fist. It was strong, but only a few times stronger than a regular person. Crack! Qin Zhao twisted lightly and the puppet's arm was broken. Qin Zhao smiled and crooked his finger. Call the ones beside you up. I ate a bit too much tonight and need to digest. Charnin's expression changed slightly. At the same time, she had the 3 puppets beside her attack. 1. Qin Zhao punched and a puppeteer fell to the ground. 2. The second punch. 3. The third punch. Dominic and Holofin were dumbfounded. They couldn't help but look at Charnon. Charnin's expression was already serious. When she looked at Qin Zhao, there was some certainty in her eyes. You're not bad. How about we pretend this never happened? Ha! Chen Zhao chuckled. Do you remember that day in the hotel when you broke the elevator rope? Sharnin's eyes flashed as she looked at Chen Zhao. One of the heavily injured ones was my subordinate, Chen Zhao said. You might not be my match, Charnan said. So I'll give you a chance to attack. Take out your trump card. Charnan snorted and took a deep breath. A green spiritual body floated out of the mouths of the 4 puppets. The 4 puppets immediately fell to the ground and stopped moving. The green spiritual body was sucked into Charnin's mouth. Charnin's eyes started glowing red. You don't know what you're facing, Charnan growled. Your arrogance will bring you bad luck. Her body emitted a terrifying aura. Holofin and Dominic took a few steps back in fear. 4 could vaguely hear Gaia and the others talking, but they seemed to be avoiding her on purpose. She couldn't hear what they were saying. This guy is using puppet magic on himself. This guy's strength has increased by at least 10 times. Can the president handle it? Just 10 times, Gaia said calmly. Even she was confident, let alone Chen Zhao. Charnan felt that she had victory in her grasp. Even the aura she emitted could make Chen Zhao tremble. Cha Nong walked up to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao didn't move. Chainin was very satisfied. You don't even have the courage to run now, do you? Why should I run? Chen Zhao was speechless. He didn't understand where Cha Nong got her confidence from. Chainin punched Chen Zhao's stomach, but Chen Zhao still didn't move. How does this punch feel? Air. Not bad. Help me scratch again. Chen Zhao curled his finger at her. Cha Nong's face was flushed, and he immediately punched again. But Chen Zhao was still as calm as ever. Chainin didn't believe it. He started punching him again and again. Dominic and Holofin were delighted to see Charnin's relentless attacks. He thought that Chen Zhao couldn't fight back. For looked at Chen Zhao. Chen, why aren't you fighting back? Are they juggling? That guy is just showing off his strength. Gaia's words hit the nail on the head. The other people in the association were also speechless. They knew Chen Zhao too well. To them, Cha Nong's strength was only decent. They might not have a chance against Cha Nong alone, but if 2 or 3 of them worked together, they could easily beat Cha Nong. Not to mention Chen Zhao. Even if everyone in the association worked together, they might not be Chen Zhao's match. A mere Cha Nong couldn't beat Chen Zhao either. Chen Zhao also found it boring. He'd been hoping that Cha Nong could give him some pressure. Unfortunately, Cha Nong's strength was only this much. Chen Zhao finally reached out and grabbed Cha Nong's shoulder. Crack! Cha Nong's shoulder was crushed. Cha Nong clutched his shoulder in pain. Was this guy a monster? He'd punched him dozens of times, but he was completely fine. After all, Cha Nong's fist had at least 2 tons of strength. Chen Zhao grabbed Cha Nong's head and lifted him into the air. Just then, more ran down from the stands and ran to Chen Zhao. President, wait. What? President, I want to learn puppet magic. You learn clone magic. Why do you want to learn puppet magic? Guild leader, my doppelgangers are as weak as my main body right now. They can only perform suicidal attacks each time. If I can combine doppelganger magic with puppet magic, my doppelgangers will possess superior combat power, Shifeng said. Chen Zhao thought about it and realized that it made sense. But he wasn't willing to let Cha Nong go just like that. President, let us bring him back to the association. When the time comes, we'll have the final say on how he dies. Copy Adu's injuries to him, Chen Zhao said. With that, Chen Zhao lifted his foot and stepped on Cha Nong's chest. Cha Nong's scream echoed through the field. Does it hurt? Chen Zhao asked. Unfortunately, Cha Nong didn't reply. Chen Zhao kicked him again. Then he asked, Does it hurt? Since you didn't say it hurts, then it doesn't hurt. Still doesn't hurt? Keep hitting. Dominic and Holofin broke out in a cold sweat. Chen Zhao didn't even give Cha Nong a chance to speak. They didn't expect that they'd excitedly come to find trouble with Chen Zhao. In the end, Qin Zhao beat Chan Nong to the ground. It was like sending a lamb into a tiger's mouth. After hitting for a while, Qin Zhao started sweating. He pulled the bandage off his head and wiped the sweat off his face. Everyone was speechless. "You're injured?" "I feel much better now," Qin Zhao said. "We can bring him back and have some fun for the association." Dominic and Holofan paled in fear. Qin Zhao had beaten Chan Nong half to death and wasn't going to let him go. Was he going to drag him back and whip his corpse? Gaia and the others came down too. After Qin Zhao said a few words to them, Gaia dragged Chan Nong out. Only then did four walk down from the stands. Dominic and Holofan wanted to escape, but they knew they couldn't when facing Qin Zhao. "Mr. Qin, this is a misunderstanding. Don't tell me it's a misunderstanding. I won't accept it." Qin Zhao looked at the two indifferently. "Qin, this guy seems to be a famous European star," Four said. "If you attack him, it won't be good." Four wouldn't stop Qin Zhao from hitting thugs. But if he attacked a famous person, it would be very bad. "He just said he wanted to rape you," Qin Zhao said. "I remember now. I have a patient." Four turned and left. Qin Zhao looked at Dominic with a faint smile. Chapter 896. Ah! Qin Zhao kicked Dominic's thigh again. His already injured thigh became even more injured. As for Holofan, Qin Zhao made sure he couldn't get off the ground for the rest of his life. Since they'd asked Chainin to deal with Qin Zhao, they clearly knew who Chainin was. As for their goal, it went without saying. Qin Zhao didn't have the habit of spoiling them. Four waited at the entrance of the field for Qin Zhao to come out. Seeing Qin Zhao's relaxed expression, she was speechless. "Are you that happy?" "Yeah. I ate so much just now. I'm done digesting it. How about we go eat something else?" Qin Zhao stayed in the hospital for a day, adding another injury report to his medical report. The next morning, Qin Zhao packed up and went home. He was a doctor, but staying in the hospital was really awkward. When he got home, Fei Lai was feeding Jerlin meat porridge. "I heard from Four that you hit someone in the hospital again last night," Fei Lai said casually without even looking up. "Don't listen to her," Qin Zhao said, feeling wrong. "I'm the injured one. I was forced to fight back. I didn't start anything." Fei Lai rolled her eyes. "Where are you hurt?" "I had a concussion. I'm still a bit dizzy." "Tell me what happened." "Yesterday at Rasva's house, I bumped into a pornographic film guy. He said something dirty." Fei Lai thought for a moment, and roughly knew what the guy had said. Qin Zhao would usually fight with others. Even in a small town, he'd fought a few times. However, Qin Zhao rarely hit people, let alone frame them. "How come you didn't kill someone like that?" Qin Zhao rolled his eyes. "It's Rasva's house, after all. If it was somewhere else, I'd have killed him already." After catching Chainin, Qin Zhao agreed to the year-end bonus and the request for a year-end vacation. The vacation was arranged in December. After all, it was only November. Also, Qin Zhao planned to go to Canada with Fei Lai this month. He didn't want to vacation with the other members of the association. In the past 2 days, Qin Zhao stayed at home. Suddenly, he felt the lucky coin heat up. This lucky gold coin was given to him by the handsome young man. Then, without giving Qin Zhao any time to react, Qin Zhao realized that the entire world had changed. This wasn't the first time Qin Zhao had experienced this feeling. But this time, she didn't even have the chance to say anything. The handsome guy appeared before Qin Zhao again. "Did I summon you too suddenly?" The handsome guy saw that Qin Zhao was only wearing a pair of boxers. His upper body was bare, and he even had a facial mask on. "Handsome, I think we have to abide by a rule. The next time you summon me, you have to give me time to prepare. If you summon me so suddenly again, I'll reject your summon." "That's right." "Okay, I was wrong," the handsome boy said with a sunny smile. "You're behaving like a demon king. Don't promise me so easily. Arrogant, arrogant." "Shouldn't you be representing arrogance? You humans are so complicated. What should I do? Refuse your request? The handsome guy looked at Qin Zhao. Then I'll reject you. I'll call you out like this again next time. I don't mean that. Then what do you want me to do? Forget it, let's talk business. Why did you summon me this time? Qin Zhao asked. The handsome guy looked at Qin Zhao. You look different from last time. Huh? What's different? Your magic is perfectly fused with your body. It's strange. How did you do it? You're a demon king. Don't you know? I'm a demon king, not a god. I'm not omniscient and omnipotent. Plus, I haven't been through your stage, so I don't know how to do it. Qin Zhao didn't hide anything. The two of them sat down and Qin Zhao explained his cultivation process in a slightly simplified manner. The person who thought of this is really powerful. Is it Samuel's idea? No. Qin Zhao shook his head. Why did you summon me to hell? Our deal. I've already completed the Tower of Trials. Where? The handsome guy took out a round tower. It looked like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but it was only 20 centimeters tall. However, Qin Zhao believed that since he'd taken it out and made it meticulously, it wouldn't be an ordinary model. How do I use it? The Tower of Trials can only be activated with a magic spell. The handsome guy placed the tower on the ground and retreated 30 meters with Qin Zhao. Under the little handsome boy's incantation, the Tower of Trials began to grow bigger, bigger, and bigger. It grew until it was a 100-meter-tall tower. The Tower of Trials looked very majestic. There were exquisite carvings on the walls. This training tower has a total of 18 floors. Each floor has a large space, and each floor has a completely different environment. Of course, the number of enemies on each floor will gradually increase. How do I ensure the safety of those who enter? Qin Zhao asked. The handsome guy took out a dozen rings. As long as you wear this ring, you'll be expelled from the Tower of Trials in the most dangerous moment. Which floor can I reach now? Qin Zhao asked. I don't know. You can try. The handsome guy shook his head. Our deal is done. Qin Zhao put away the Tower of Trials. The handsome guy was surprised. I thought you'd go in and try. Handsome, let me ask you a question. What question? Do gods really exist? To you humans, anything more advanced than you can be called gods, such as demons? The handsome guy said. To other species in the human world, humans are their gods. I'm not talking about advanced life forms. I'm talking about existences in a certain concept, such as omniscience and omnipotence. I can't answer that. I was created in the first place. So is the one who created you a god? To me, yes, but to your concept, he's not a god either. The handsome guy said. The handsome young man said. Maybe there are more advanced species above him, and maybe in the eyes of some advanced species, I'm just a low-level species like you. You're quite open-minded. Don't you humans have a saying? The more you know, the smaller you'll find yourself. Forget it. Let's not talk about something that even you can't explain. Let's talk about what you're good at. What do you want to talk about? Chapter 897. What's wrong with a pure physical attack? The handsome guy asked. Don't you think it's boring? No. The handsome guy shook his head. But against a spirit-type enemy, the final deciding factor of victory is still my magic power. But spiritual enemies are also the weakest. They don't have a physical body, so most of them are weak, the handsome guy said. The handsome boy said, I don't think you should give up your advantage and choose magic attacks. Moreover, with your personality, you will choose to fight in the most direct way in the end. Qin Zhao rubbed his hair. Sigh, why can't you understand? Actually, I just want to show off. I want those super colorful ones that don't need to be powerful. I'll just be dazzled by them. You want to learn illusions? No, not illusions. I still can't understand what you're thinking. Or rather, I can't understand what you humans think. Just tell me if you have such spells. Don't need power? Yes, even if it doesn't have any power. Looks cool? Yes. Do you know what cool means? I do. It's used to scare people, right? Yes. The handsome guy thought for a long time and then stood up. He closed his eyes and pointed at his forehead. Rings of light appeared behind him, like a blazing sun born from chaos. The light was beautiful but not dazzling. It didn't hurt people's eyes. Not enough, Qin Zhao said. More magic arrays in the air. That's meaningless. Handsome, you have to understand that I don't want power. I just want to look scary. The handsome guy spread his arms and hundreds of magic arrays appeared in the air. Everything within a radius of several hundred meters was enveloped by the dazzling magic arrays, which were as pleasing to the eye as fireworks. Is this okay? Yes, this is much better. Qin Zhao nodded. Is this spell hard to learn? Not hard? It's just a bit complicated. Reality proved that the handsome guy was strong, but not a good teacher. Like most people, they might have some kind of skill or knowledge, but they might not know how to pass this knowledge to others. Qin Zhao studied for a long time but still couldn't understand it clearly. Now I understand why you are lowly creatures. I should feel honored to be able to make the Demon King look down on a species. At the very least, for this moment, I represent a species. Qin Zhao wasn't ashamed. Instead, he felt proud. He didn't think that he should feel ashamed. After all, he was facing the Demon King. It might not be a god, but it was definitely the most advanced species Qin Zhao knew. It was like comparing the brain development of a cow to that of a human. No matter how smart a cow was, it was impossible for it to be smarter than a human. After 10 hours, Qin Zhao managed to learn it. However, Qin Zhao clearly couldn't make it as spectacular as the handsome guy. Qin Zhao could only use this spell to cover an area of 10 feet. Of course, this didn't mean that Qin Zhao was 10 times stronger than the handsome guy. That was because the handsome young man had only used 1,000th of his strength. Next time, bring me to eat the special delicacies of hell. Of course, the kind that doesn't have any side effects. I don't want to eat something and suddenly mutate, Qin Zhao said. Hell's specialty delicacies? Why do you humans pursue the needs of taste? That's something I can't understand. The Demon King of Hell represents the 7 sins, but now you say that you can't understand human desires. That's a funny question. Qin Zhao rolled his eyes. It's different. We represent the source of our power, not desire itself. Then, do you want anything? Qin Zhao asked. No. Then what's your furnace for? Didn't you build it for a certain purpose? I can destroy the furnace any time. Don't be so serious. Qin Zhao took out an angelic crystal. He'd obtained it when he killed Abaddon last time. The handsome guy's eyes were immediately attracted by the angelic crystal. Do you want it? The handsome guy nodded and Qin Zhao put it away. Look, this is your desire. Desires vary from person to person. It's not that you don't have desires, it's just that what you and I pursue is different. You have everything, so you seem to have no desires, but that doesn't mean you really don't have anything you want. Fine, I accept your point of view. Also, I want to trade with you. I want that angelic crystal. Name your price, Qin Zhao said. Then what do you want? The handsome guy asked. I don't know what I want. Basically, what I want the most is wealth, Qin Zhao said. Can you give me wealth? No. The handsome guy shook his head. Then give me a few more lucky gold coins, or death substitution gold coins. Your request is that simple? The handsome guy looked at Qin Zhao in confusion. Something that's worthless to you might be priceless to me, Qin Zhao said. Lucky coins are still useful to you, but death replacement coins are useless to you. It doesn't matter. Even if I can't use it, my family can. That's enough. Then I'll give you 10 lucky coins and 10 death replacement coins? The handsome guy asked tentatively. Sure. Actually, you can raise the price a bit more, the handsome guy said. I don't have many good points, but being easily satisfied is probably one of them, Qin Zhao said calmly. Also, in our last trade, I used angelic crystals to exchange for the trial tower. I think I earned a lot. Although it's a trade, I think I should return the favor and not ask for it unilaterally. I'll give it to you next time. I need to collect it too, the handsome guy said. Qin Zhao handed the angelic crystal to the guy. The handsome boy took the angelic crystal and took out a ring. Wear this. You'll be under my protection even in hell. Thank you. Qin Zhao didn't reject anything. Next time, I'll take you to find delicacies in hell. It's about time. I should return to the human world. The handsome guy looked at Qin Zhao. You don't look like a human. You don't look like a demon king either. Qin Zhao waved his hand. Goodbye. Goodbye. This was the first time the guy had said this to someone. Qin Zhao gave him a special feeling. Chapter 898. No matter what, the sunlight in the world was comforting. Fei Lai was a little upset about Qin Zhao's sudden disappearance for a day again. Qin Zhao would tell her every time, but just like last time, he disappeared for a day without warning. After much persuasion, Qin Zhao finally calmed her down. The next day, Qin Zhao went to the headquarters. Where are they? Gather everyone. President Mr. West went to our superior department, Jialig said beside Qin Zhao. Then don't worry about him. Gather the other members. Do we have to do missions outside too? I don't care, but don't say I didn't warn you if you missed this opportunity. What opportunity? Everyone was curious. Was Qin Zhao going to give them some benefits again? Anyway, I'll just wait for 2 hours, Qin Zhao said. Those who can come back in time will come. If not, then forget it. Mr. West, the president seems to have a plan again. It looks like he's giving you benefits. How long will it take for you to come back? Not so soon. West was a bit depressed. The anti-terrorism department was really slow. He just sat on the bench for an hour. He didn't know what benefits Qin Zhao was going to give him. He didn't know if he could make it in time. Just then, a female secretary walked out. Mr. West, the president wants you in. West tidied up his clothes and walked into the office. Mr. President, hello? Leon put down the documents in his hands. Why are you here? Did something happen to the association? No, Mr. President, I'm here to submit our budget report for next year. Our president also said that he hopes to receive the funds at the beginning of the year. Hearing this, Liang slammed the table and stood up. The supernatural organization is only a subordinate department of the anti-terrorism department. Even our regular army doesn't have such a requirement. What right do you have to make such a request to a superior department? Mr. President, we've participated in many operations this year and achieved great results, so we have. That's what you guys should be doing. Leon interrupted West. Anything else? Nothing. West lowered his head. Also, that president of yours has been here for more than half a year, but he still hasn't met me. Call him here tomorrow, I want to see him, Leon said. West groaned inwardly. According to Liang's aggressive attitude, they would probably start fighting if they met the equally aggressive Qin Zhao. Is there anything else? If there's nothing else, remember to close the door when you leave. West was depressed as he left the counter-control headquarters dejectedly. On the way back to the association headquarters, West could not calm down. He didn't know how to tell Qin Zhao. When West arrived at the headquarters, he realized that everyone was gathered in the open space outside. Mr. West is back. West walked over. President. Yes, you came just in time. Qin Zhao nodded. Okay, I have something to show you. Qin Zhao took out the Tower of Trials and placed it on the ground. Move back 30 meters. Guild leader, what is this? It looks like some kind of weapon. Or a bomb? Bomb? Judging from the material, it should be a rock, right? It looks more like an art piece. Everyone guessed and looked at Qin Zhao curiously. Qin Zhao started chanting a spell. Then, the Tower of Trials started expanding before everyone's eyes. Bigger, 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 everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, their faces filled with disbelief. What is this? So big, oh my god, is this a tall tower? After the Tower of Trials reached a height of 100 meters, it finally stopped. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the training tower. Chen Zhao was very proud of his display. President, what is this? West was also so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. Everyone looked at the Tower of Trials in disbelief. This is... Chen Zhao was about to explain when someone interrupted him. Wait. Is it my imagination? The tower seems to be falling. No, it doesn't seem. It's really going to fall. Fuck, run! Chen Zhao yelled. It was really going to fall. Everyone ran for their lives in fear. An elite was the fastest. The Tower of Trials slowly tilted to the right, more and more. Rumble. The Tower of Trials fell on the headquarters. More than half of the center was destroyed. Everyone who had just experienced a frightening moment watched as their headquarters was destroyed just like that. Their expressions all froze. They looked at Chen Zhao in shock. Chen Zhao was also very embarrassed. It was an accident. Chen Zhao scratched his face. He'd really embarrassed himself this time. He didn't expect such an accident to happen. Chen Zhao hadn't thought much when he displayed the Tower of Trials. But when he placed it on the ground couldn't bear the weight of the Tower of Trials. It deformed and caused the Tower of Trials to collapse. Everyone's expressions froze. They looked at Chen Zhao and then at the huge tower that had destroyed their headquarters. Don't say anything. Chen Zhao stopped them. He walked up and chanted a spell. The Tower of Trials shrank again, and Chen Zhao put it away. Great! President's weapon is very powerful. Any demon or monster will be turned to ashes by this weapon. West was the first to cheer. Yes, yes. Congratulations, President, for getting this weapon. Yes, yes. President, what's the name of this weapon? West had wanted to give Chen Zhao a way out, but after his explanation, Chen Zhao felt even more embarrassed. How was this a weapon? This was the Tower of Trials. Actually, I've always felt that our headquarters architectural style is too old. I've wanted to tear it down and rebuild it for a long time. I think so too. President, you're wise. We can use this opportunity to renovate the headquarters. Chen Zhao's lips twitched. Okay, I'll pay for the rebuilding. Chen Zhao was very depressed. What was going on? They'd demolished the headquarters for no reason. Chen Zhao took out his phone and found Felwood Cisco's number. Hello, Mr. Felwood, I have a project here. Are you interested? The budget is around $2 million. Yes, Mr. Chen, thank you so much. Felwood almost jumped up from his seat. A budget of $2 million was definitely a big project. Then when shall we meet? I'll arrange for someone to meet you. You can talk to him. Chapter 899. Everyone started cleaning up the headquarters and moving out the things that needed to be moved out. Chen Zhao suddenly screamed. Everyone turned around and saw Chen Zhao pull out a corpse from the rubble. Cisco's corpse had been pulled out. No wonder Chen Zhao screamed so miserably. Usually, when Chen Zhao was depressed, he would find Cisco to vent his anger. Now that his toy was dead, of course Chen Zhao would be sad. President, he's dead. It's not a big deal. Who said it's not a big deal? I was going to leave him to my daughter. Let's see if she wants to take revenge for her mother. Everyone was speechless. Chainen's not dead yet. More found Chainen from the rubble. Chanong's life was really tough. He didn't die even after that. Just then, West came to Chen Zhao's side. President, let's talk here. Surprised, Chen Zhao followed West to the side. What's wrong? President, the director of the Anti-Terrorist Operations Department, Mr. Leon, wants to see you. Oh, sure. What's wrong? Director Leon might have a bad temper. Don't worry, Chen Zhao said. Since he's my superior, I'll watch my temper. Seeing Chen Zhao's solemn promise, West's mood didn't improve at all. Chen Zhao was a very stubborn person. He didn't think that if Minister Liang had said anything unpleasant, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Chen Zhao would tolerate it. The next day, Qin Zhao and West went to the Anti-Terrorist Operations Department. It looked like a normal office. People came and went. Other than checking their identities at the entrance, they didn't do much else. It was completely different from what Qin Zhao had imagined. Qin Zhao thought that there would be all sorts of high-tech scanning devices, like retina or fingerprints. However, Chen Zhao couldn't stand sitting on the walkway. That minister, when will he see us? If he's not free, we can do it another day. President, be patient. Just a little bit more. Chen Zhao's impatience was written all over his face. Finally, after more than 2 hours, Lian's secretary finally informed them that they could go in. Chen Zhao walked in and sat in front of Lian. Lian looked up at Chen Zhao. Did I say you could sit? Are all Chinese so rude? West's forehead was already covered in cold sweat. This was not a happy start. You don't take the initiative to invite the guest to take a seat when you summon the guest. You Americans don't have much better manners. Qin Zhao crossed his legs and stared at Liang. You're from China. Tell me why you joined this supernatural organization. Lian treated Qin Zhao like an outsider. Oh, my ability isn't very good in the country, so I came to the United States to try my luck. In the end, I found out that the level of the supernatural here is very low. Even someone like me can become the president. Veins popped out on Liang's forehead. Gritting his teeth, he slammed the table and yelled, Kid, you're pretty tough with your words. Do you believe that I'll send you to jail? Old man, you're quite stubborn. Do you believe that I'll send you straight to the hospital? I now doubt your ability to lead the supernatural organization. I'm more capable than you anyway, Chen Zhao said in disdain. You're challenging my bottom line. Liang gritted his teeth and stared at Chen Zhao. On the surface, the supernatural organization is a subordinate department of your anti-terrorism department, but we have our own way of operating. It's not your place to interfere. Since they'd already fallen out, Chen Zhao planned to fight Liang to the end. But your funds are provided by the Anti-Terrorism Operations Department. You don't have to. In the future, you can deal with supernatural incidents yourselves. Do you think we can't deal with these incidents without this supernatural organization? Qin Zhao stood up and turned to leave. West, the supernatural organization has a holiday today. Come back. Liang felt like he was going to have a heart attack. He already regretted summoning Qin Zhao. He didn't think that Qin Zhao's temper was even worse than his. He'd wanted to put on airs and let Qin Zhao know who was boss. But Qin Zhao didn't have a good conversation with him at all. Qin Zhao turned around and gave Liang the middle finger. Don't ask for it. Fuck off, fuck off! Liang roared in exasperation. Even without the supernatural organization, we can deal with it. We can form a second supernatural organization ourselves. Chen Zhao shrugged. Good luck. Goodbye. I don't believe that the Anti-Terrorism Operations Department will be finished without you. West followed beside Chen Zhao with a bitter expression. President, why do you have to be like this? Didn't you see that old guy's face? He's just here to humiliate me. West's face was filled with helplessness. The supernatural organization had its own system, but its funds were all provided by the Anti-Terrorism Operations Department. Now that they'd fallen out with Liang, what would they eat? Would Liang really come and beg them? What a joke. The most likely scenario was that they'd form another supernatural organization. It would also be directly controlled by Liang. It wouldn't be like the current supernatural organization, which was controlled by the Anti-Terrorism Operations Department. President, what if they don't come and beg us? Then we'll be self-sufficient, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. In the future, we'll charge for every operation. If we don't pay, we won't do anything. It's that simple, just like hospitals now. Will that work? Why not? You have to be confident in yourself. What if it doesn't work? Then we'll disband, Chen Zhao said calmly. Sigh. If he'd known this would happen, he wouldn't have informed Chen Zhao. He could have just found an excuse to deal with Liang Qinzhao's temper was an eye-opener for him. Will the headquarters still be renovated? Of course. Qinzhao's answer was certain. West was confused about his future. Oh, I'm curious. Why isn't the supernatural organization under the government's control? President, America is a member of the supernatural organization and has to follow the supernatural convention. The government has to interfere with the organization's operations. Then that old guy said he'd form his own organization. That's illegal, right? That's true, but they can form it privately. It looks like a private organization, but it's actually controlled by the Anti-Terrorism Operations Department. That's totally possible. Then do you think they can form it? That depends on how much they invest. The supernatural organization doesn't invest much, right? The supernatural organization has existed for 30 years. The Anti-Terrorism Operations Department has invested more than $100 million. Chapter 900. I'll find the most powerful spiritualist. Liang roared. I want the most powerful spiritualist. I don't care how much it costs. Minister, are you serious? The secretary walked in and looked at Liang. Do I look like I'm joking? Liang took out a document from under his desk. Take it. Invite them from here. As the head of the Anti-Terrorist Operations Department, Liang had many spiritualists under his command. Minister, are you really going to rebuild a supernatural organization because of this incident? What? My words don't work anymore. The secretary looked at Liang helplessly. Since you've decided, I'll do it. Mr. Chen, hello? Felwood Cisco came to the ruins of the supernatural organization's headquarters. When Felwood saw the ruins, he had a rough plan in his heart. This is West. He'll be in charge of the handover. Chen Zhao pointed at him. Mr. Chen, what's the specific purpose of this project? Office use, Chen Zhao said. But I hope to have a high-tech exterior design. What about the size of the office? No more than 20 people, but the office also needs a warehouse and a machine room. Chen Zhao added. But other than the office, I also need to build a foundation that can support a 100-meter building. Huh! Felwood was confused. This place was already secluded enough. Was Chen Zhao planning to build a 100-meter tall building here? You don't need to know the purpose. You just need to do it. Okay. Felwood couldn't think of a reason to reject Chen Zhao's money. Since Chen Zhao had given him such a large order, he had no reason to reject it. I'll give you the blueprints within a week and send them to Mr. Chen and Mr. West. Although Chen Zhao wanted him to hand over to West, Chen Zhao's status was clearly higher than West's. Therefore, he had to consider Chen Zhao's suggestions and requests. Chen Zhao definitely had the right to speak. West, if you have any requests, you can discuss it with Mr. Felwood yourself. Okay. West nodded. Also, I'm going to Canada for vacation with Fei Lai the day after tomorrow. I won't be back until the 25th. Don't disturb me if there's nothing important. After giving instructions, Chen Zhao left the reconstruction of the association headquarters to West. In any case, he was just a hands-off shopkeeper. After all, he had already paid for it, so there was no need for him to do anything. Mrs. Peter was sitting in the courtyard, enjoying the afternoon sun and reading a book. At this moment, the butler walked over. Madam, there's someone outside. He said he wants to see you. Who is it? He didn't say, but he said you would see him, the butler said. What do you mean? Mrs. Peter asked in confusion. He said that he had made a deal with you before. I haven't made a deal with anyone, Mrs. Peter said with a frown. Although she was rich, it was all inherited from her family. What does he look like? He was wearing a wide-brimmed felt hat and a trench coat. The collar was pulled up high, so I couldn't see his face clearly. Mrs. Peter's mind instantly thought of someone. It was that person had come. The messenger of God. Why did he come? Let him in. Mrs. Peter suddenly became nervous. Not long after, a man followed the butler into the room. Mrs. Peter kept staring at the person behind the butler. Just like the first time, she could not see his face. Sir, how should I address you? The man did not speak. He just stood there quietly. Anderson, you can leave first. Yes, madam, the housekeeper said after she left. After the butler left, the man said, You know who I am. I don't know how to address you. Mrs. Peter tried to remain calm. You can call me Shimi. Hello, Mr. Shimi. May I know why you are here? I'm here to take back what I stored here. Mrs. Peter's face instantly turned pale. You want to take my legs? No, it's part of our deal. I won't take it. Then, what do you want to take? Suddenly, Shimi reached out a hand and pierced Mrs. Peter's stomach. Mrs. Peter felt a sharp pain. She watched as the hand pierced through her stomach, but she could not scream. Her voice was stuck in her throat, unable to come out. This hand was not a human hand. It was not the hand of God as she had thought. This hand was furry, like a wild beast. This time, Mrs. Peter saw the man's face clearly. It was not a human face at all. Just then, Shimi retracted his hand and took out a bright red ball from Mrs. Peter's stomach. The ball seemed to have a life of its own. It kept pulsing. Goodbye. Shimi waved his hand. Mrs. Peter fell to the ground, muttering, Why? Qinzhao saw a car parked at the door. 2 uniformed people got out. Qinzhao walked to the door. Hello, how can I help you? Hello, sir. Is Miss Feilai here? Feilai, someone is looking for you. Feilai immediately ran out. Hello, who are you? We're delivery men from Tammy's Sporting Goods Company. Your skis are here. Thank you. After the delivery man left, Chen Zhao looked at Feilai. Feilai, you want to ski? How can I not ski when I'm going to Canada? Chen Zhao was going crazy. She was almost 3 months pregnant. Even if he had to handcuff her, he would not let her ski. Of course, before things developed in the worst direction, Chen Zhao would still use logic to convince her. Feilai, do you know that the lowest temperature in Montreal in November is -4? If you want to ski, you have to go to Alberta. The temperature there is already -10. Jerlin has always lived in California. It's hard for her to get used to Alberta's temperature. You don't want me to ski, right? After you give birth, Qin Zhao said. I'll make a ski field in front of my house. Qin Zhao did not care about anything else since he had already bragged. He had to stop Feilai's crazy actions first. How do you make it? With magic, Qin Zhao said. Okay, you said it. You can't go back on your word. I promise. Qin Zhao broke into a cold sweat. He would ask Carrie if she could do it. If she couldn't, he would ask the experts in hell. Just then, Qin Zhao's phone rang. Hello? Are you Mr. Chen? I'm Mrs. Peter's housekeeper. Please come over. Mrs. Peter is seriously injured. Chapter 901. Qin Zhao hurried to Madame Peter's manor. The butler immediately brought him to Madame Peter's bedroom. When Qin Zhao entered the room, a horrible stench assaulted his nostrils. The butler was prepared, but he still couldn't help but stop at the door. Qin Zhao turned around and glanced at the butler. The butler pointed at Madame Peter on the bed. Mr. Qin, Madame is on the bed. I hope you can save her. Qin Zhao endured the stench and walked to the bed. He lifted the blanket to take a look, and his expression changed slightly. There was an obvious wound on Madame Peter's abdomen. The stench was coming from the wound. The wound was completely rotten. What caused this? Qin Zhao asked. Someone came to visit, the butler said. She told me to leave, but when I found her again, she was already lying on the ground. The person was gone too. Why didn't you call an ambulance? Madame didn't allow it. Qin Zhao could feel traces of magic seeping out from the wound on Madame Peter's abdomen. The wound wasn't caused by a regular sharp object. He had to stop the rot first. If it continued, Madame Peter would die from sepsis. Qin Zhao first gave Mrs. Peter an anti-inflammatory drug and an antibiotic. Madame Peter must have been infected with voodoo at the same time when she was hurt. But voodoo was actually a virus, so the antibiotic was still very effective. Of course, Qin Zhao also purified the wound to prevent the virus from worsening the wound. Then he took out utensils and a scalpel to scrape the rotten flesh from Madame Peter. Qin Zhao used a spell on Madame Peter to make her sleep temporarily. For this, he used some crystallization potion. "Burn the rotten flesh," Qin Zhao said to the butler. The butler covered his nose and carried the utensils out. After a while, Madame Peter opened her eyes slightly. She was still very weak. However, she still had a kind expression on her face. "Mr. Qin, I thought the next time I saw you would be in the middle of a sunny afternoon. Actually, this isn't bad," Qin Zhao said, smiling. Although the rotten flesh had been removed from Madame Peter's wound, a large piece of skin on her abdomen was gone. Qin Zhao was still treating the wound. He pulled the skin on the side over and sewed it up. "How do you feel now?" "Very bad." "It's very bad, but it's a good thing." Qin Zhao's tone was gentle. "If you don't feel anything, that's the real bad thing." Qin Zhao chatted with Mrs. Peter while treating her. Then, he took out some alcohol and cleaned the wound. A conscious patient was actually safer than a comatose one. "Tell me, who dares to hurt such a charming lady?" Mrs. Peter suddenly became frightened. "That's not God's messenger. That's the devil's apostle." Qin Zhao didn't expect Mrs. Peter to be so agitated. He quickly comforted her. However, Mrs. Peter's words reminded him of what Mrs. Peter had said before. She used to call the person who healed her legs the messenger of God. "That furry hand, that's not a human hand, the one who hurt you. He's not human, he's not human. He took out a bead from my stomach, a bloody bead. That bead was alive." "Beads?" Qin Zhao frowned. Was it Mrs. Peter's imagination? Or was it true? Qin Zhao wasn't sure, but if Madame Peter wasn't wrong, Qin Zhao had to be careful. That person might have put the bead in her body when treating her. A while later, the housekeeper returned to the house. Qin Zhao walked to the housekeeper and whispered, "You need to take Mrs. Peter to the hospital for a more thorough examination." "Okay, Mr. Qin." The housekeeper put a stack of cash in Qin Zhao's hand. Qin Zhao nodded and turned to look at Mrs. Peter. "Madam, is there anything else I can do for you?" "Young man, thank you." Qin Zhao looked at the money in his hand and shook his head with a bitter smile. "God won't protect me. Compared to God, I should be closer to the demon she's afraid of. The person God should protect the most is you, madam. Goodbye." "Goodbye." Before Qin Zhao left, he received a phone call. It was from David. "Hey, David. Chen, are you free? Do me a favor." "Yes." Qin Zhao wouldn't hesitate if David wanted to help. His woman had helped him many times. "I'll give you an address. Come here immediately, okay?" "Okay." Qin Zhao hurried to the address David gave him. This was an old neighborhood. The residential buildings along the street were all 5 or 6 stories tall. They didn't have elevators. Because of the design flaw, the lighting was very bad. The corridor was dark, and the lights in the corridor were very dim. The people living here were all poor. Before Qin Zhao reached his floor, he could already hear the howls. Qin Zhao sped up. When he reached the 6th floor, he saw a few onlookers crowding at the door. "Excuse me," Qin Zhao called. Hearing Qin Zhao's voice, David pushed through the crowd. "Chen, you're finally here." Qin Zhao didn't reminisce with David. He could already hear the howls from the room. As soon as Qin Zhao entered, he saw a familiar person. "Why are you here?" Qin Zhao frowned at the priest before him. "Chen, do you know him?" David said. "He's here to exorcise the child." The priest was none other than Bruce, the old priest that Qin Zhao had met when he was eradicating Satanism in San Francisco. When Bruce saw Qin Zhao, he was also shocked. "Mr. Qin." Qin Zhao glanced at the girl whose limbs were tied up on the bed. This should be a Latina family. "You're exorcising a child here?" Yes." "David, send the parents out and close the door." Qin Zhao sat beside the bed and pressed the agitated child back onto the bed. As soon as Qin Zhao pulled off the blanket, a horrible stench assaulted his face. Instantly, Qin Zhao's expression darkened. Who did this? I heard from the child's parents that the child used to suffer from severe epilepsy. But later, someone said that he could cure the child's illness on the condition that the child couldn't participate in any activities related to sports. After that, the child didn't have any relapses for more than 2 years, but today, that person came again and said that he wanted to spend some time with the child alone. When the child's parents entered the room again, they found that something had happened to the child. This situation was exactly the same as Mrs. Peters. Mr. Chen, is he bewitched? Bruce asked carefully. Qin Zhao started treating the child. At the same time, he looked up at Bruce. Why are you here? Chapter 902. As he treated Bruce, Qin Zhao looked at David. He was wearing casual clothes today. Why didn't the parents call an ambulance? The man is my informant. With that, David looked at Bruce warily. Don't worry. He won't dare to say anything. If he does, I'll feed him to Aman. Bruce didn't know what Aman was, but if Qin Zhao mentioned it, it was most likely some ferocious beast. He's also wanted, so it's not convenient for him to bring the child to the hospital. Qin Zhao took out an angelic crystal and crushed it into powder. Angelic crystal powder was very effective at dispelling voodoo. I met the same patient before I came, Qin Zhao said. It's not an isolated case. After I finish the treatment, take the child to the hospital for a checkup. Okay. Call the parents in, Qin Zhao said. I have some questions to ask them. David opened the door and called the parents in. When David communicated with the parents, it was in Spanish. Mexico's official language was Spanish, so the parents should be from Mexico. Chen, what do you want to ask them? What does the person who cured the child have? What does he look like? David acted as a translator and helped Qin Zhao communicate with the parents. They said that they didn't see the person's face. He wore a wide-brimmed felt hat and a trench coat. The collar was pulled up high, so they couldn't see clearly. He was exactly the same as the man Mrs. Peter had described. Chen, do you have any clues? Not yet. Who's the injured person you mentioned? Sorry, I can't reveal my client's information. Not even me? Can you go to the police station and get a few bags of drugs? Of course not. So I won't ask you to go against your professional ethics. Don't ask me to either, okay? Okay, but if you have any clues, share them with me. I don't think I'll have any more clues, because Fei Lai and I are going to Canada for vacation tomorrow. I'm starting to envy your life. David hugged Qin Zhao. Have fun. I will. Take me and the child to the hospital. Okay. Mr. Chen, wait for me. Bruce hurried after him. After leaving the building, Qin Zhao looked at Bruce. Why are you following me? Mr. Chen. I want to learn some exorcism spells. What I use is classified as black magic by your church. You want to learn black magic from me? As long as it can dispel the darkness, I am willing to sacrifice myself to the darkness. David rolled his eyes. If everyone could learn, he would have asked Qin Zhao long ago. David, tell this priest what he needs to do to learn magic. You have to die once first, David said. Ah? Is he really dead? David taught Bruce about the ways to obtain magic power. After hearing David's words, Bruce despaired. He had come all the way from San Francisco to Los Angeles to learn magic from Qin Zhao. But now, he had received news that made him despair. You should continue to be a priest. Using God's will to guide the lost sheep is also a very noble job. Qin Zhao got into the car with David, who was carrying the child, and drove away. Actually, Qin Zhao didn't dislike JD's school, at least after a few changes to the doctrine. JD's school had kept up with the times. Its doctrine was also very bright and guided people to do good. When he reached the hospital, Qin Zhao realized that it was busier than usual. Qin Zhao accompanied David and sent the child to the examination room. Just then, For ran over. Chin, you're here at the right time. A few difficult patients came to our hospital today. Come and help. I'm a fake doctor who doesn't even have a medical license. There's even a police officer beside me. You're testing the bottom line of the law. David rolled his eyes. For and David had met once. It was at Qin Zhao's housewarming party. They could only be considered acquaintances. You're going on vacation with Fei Lai tomorrow, right? I have a way to persuade Fei Lai to cancel the vacation. Do you believe me? Qin Zhao turned his head helplessly and looked at David. Officer, can I go and save people? Go, this is a righteous act, God will bless you. Qin Zhao even gave David the middle finger. Following For to the emergency room, Qin Zhao saw a few patients. At the same time, he smelled the familiar rotten smell. A few doctors and nurses were busy in the emergency room. These injured people's abdomens are injured, as if they were scratched by a beast, and then the wounds were inflamed and rotten for a few days. But in fact, they were injured today, and one of them is already dead. Right now, these injured people are in a very dangerous situation. Anti-inflammatory drugs and antibiotics are not very effective on them. 2 of them are extremely manic, as if they have been infected with rabies. You and all the other doctors and nurses leave, Qin Zhao said. Huh. Now, immediately. Are you confident? I've already met 2 of the same kind today. For was surprised, but she still nodded. Ladies and gentlemen, please leave. For what do you mean? He's contracted this place. For pointed at Qin Zhao. Him? Who is he? Some doctors didn't know Qin Zhao, but they were quickly pulled away by their colleagues. Let's go. Why? There are still patients here who need our treatment. They're all in critical condition. Just leave it to Mr. Qin. But, no buts. Mr. Qin has special rights in the hospital. If he requests to treat a patient, he has the right to take over the patient. If you have any objections, you can go to the director or the hospital's major shareholder. After chasing all the doctors and nurses out, Qin Zhao closed the door. He took out angelic crystals and quickly sprinkled powder on each patient's wound. In the past, Qin Zhao had to use a hammer to smash angelic crystals. Now, he could crush them with his hands. Qin Zhao quickly disinfected each patient's wound, removed the rotten flesh, and stitched them up. In less than 20 minutes, Qin Zhao had treated all the patients. A group of doctors stood outside and looked at Qin Zhao. It's done. Now take them to be checked. Also, give me a copy of the report. For looked at Qin Zhao in shock. It's done so quickly? It's not a big problem for me. When treating Mrs. Peter, Qin Zhao hadn't remembered to use angelic crystals, so it was more troublesome. Chapter 903. Soon, Qin Zhao received the first patient's examination report. Most of the data was normal. However, their bodily functions were clearly lower than normal people's. If it was a normal injury, it was possible for the body to be weak, resulting in a temporary decrease in bodily functions. But the decrease was too huge. They looked more like 70 or 80 years old, terminally ill. But most of the patients were in their 30s and 40s. Qin Zhao could only blame it on voodoo spells. Qin Zhao was busy at the hospital a bit late. He only got home after 8 at night. Fei Lai helped Qin Zhao bring out dinner. She'd already learned from For that Qin Zhao had come back so late to save people. While Qin Zhao was wolfing down his food, his phone rang. Qin Zhao put it on speaker. Hey Louis, how come you have time to call me? Qin, I want to ask you for a favor. I'm busy. Without thinking, Qin Zhao wanted to reject her directly. Don't hang up, Louis said hurriedly. It's about Norma. What's wrong with her? She's been a bit strange recently. Bewitched again? No, I'm talking about her mental state. She seems to be interested in magic and has been looking for books about it. But where can I find them? I can't help you. Magic books are every witch's inheritance. No, Louis said. I'm wondering if we can let her join the supernatural organization and use that to expose her to some magic. Lend me your private plane and I'll let her join the organization. No problem. I can even give it to you. Fei Lai glanced at Qin Zhao and covered her mouth, giggling. Oh, and lend me your pilot too. Sure. When can you let Norma go? Wait until I come back from vacation. Where are you going? Vacation? Canada, Montreal. I'm going too. Qin Zhao was speechless. You're a billionaire on the Forbes list. Shouldn't you be busy every day? You're talking about ordinary tycoons. At my level, I'd basically leave everything to my subordinates. Do you really think that there are countless decisions waiting for me to make every day? Louis said matter-of-factly. And I can make most of the decisions through a remote connection. If there's anything that needs to be signed, you can send it to me directly. You can go back after signing it. This is my vacation with Fei Lai. Why are you here? I can arrange the best hotel for you. Deal. In any case, Qin Zhao had already made up his mind. As long as Fei Lai and he were playing, it would be fine. Fei Lai went back to her room to pack for tomorrow, while Qin Zhao carried Samuel. Samuel, let me ask you something. What is it? It's like this. Qin Zhao told them about what had happened to the boy and Mrs. Peter. Hildas, Samuel said. What? Hildas is also known as the 100-nest demon. It's a man-made demon, Samuel said. In ancient times, it was once a god of fertility and childbirth in a certain civilization. In reality, it's a deformed monster made from human flesh and blood. It needs 100 people to breed it. The person you mentioned spreading Hildas's seed is actually Hilda's son, a faceless monster. Samuel continued. Those who are parasitized by Hildas's seed will have to bear a taboo. It's called the talent taboo. Hilda's son will choose 100 people with amazing talent in various areas, and then bury the seed in their bodies. It will absorb the person's talent. After the seed is cultivated, the son will take the seed out. Actually, this man-made demon is very similar to Cerberus. They're both created in a similar way, but Hildas's creation method is more complicated. Why would someone want to create such a twisted thing? Qin Zhao only felt disgusted. Because ancient humans wanted to create a perfect person, or rather, a god. Samuel said. Aren't there a lot of mad scientists in movies? Ancient humans probably had similar thoughts, but they didn't create a god. In the end, they created these deformed monsters. So, which psychopath is behind this, or is it the son of Hildas that you mentioned? It should be Hilda's offspring's autonomous behavior. Hilda's offspring also need to reproduce, but without Hildas as the mother, they can't reproduce, so they can only create a mother on their own. That means there will be at least 100 victims, right? Yes. Qin Zhao thought about it. He'd already done what he could. The rest had nothing to do with him. Anyway, he had to go on vacation tomorrow. Plus, didn't Leon from the anti-terrorism department say that even without the supernatural organization, they had the ability to solve this? Qin Zhao wanted to see how he would solve this. Oh, you've watched Resident Evil, right? Yes. What's wrong? Qin Zhao suddenly had a bad feeling. Hildas uses voodoo to infect ordinary people and give birth to faceless monsters. It's similar to the virus infection in Resident Evil. Qin Zhao frowned. You mean those 100 people will all become faceless monsters? The ones you treated should be safe now. After all, the voodoo has been removed. Qin Zhao was still worried, so he called West. West, come over here. President, what time is it? Something might happen in L.A. soon. West immediately went to Qin Zhao's house. Qin Zhao took out 100 bottles of medicine made from angelic crystal powder. Give these to our people. If you're poisoned, take them immediately. It's very effective. President, what's going on? I don't know the details, but don't worry about it. It has nothing to do with us. President, if something really big happens, are you really going to stand aside? Don't forget that we were abandoned. Qin Zhao said. This time, I want that old bastard Leon to come to me personally. Is the situation very serious this time? I don't know. I don't have much information. Is it a person or something else? Chapter 904. The next day, Chen Zhao hurried to the airport with his family. Louis Clallam's plane was already parked at the airport. He was on the plane too. There were more people at the airport. L.A.'s population flow had always been high. Every day, countless dream chasers would come, and countless failures would leave. It wouldn't be easy to stay here. Chen Zhao walked through a special passage. He carried Zhirlin in his arms. Behind him was a group of beasts, all giving off an unfriendly aura. Just then, a familiar person walked over. It was Louis Clallam's captain. He'd already flown Chen Zhao 2 or 3 times, so he wasn't unfamiliar with Chen Zhao's pets. Mr. Chen, Ms. Fei Lai, hello? Mr. Louis is already waiting for you on the plane. I'm here to pick you up. Thank you. Just as they were about to pass through the special passage, Chen Zhao's shoulder was suddenly bumped. Chen Zhao was carrying Zhirlin, so he didn't want to give way. The person who bumped into him fell to the ground. It was a young man with a headscarf on his head and sportswear. Chen Zhao looked down at the headscarf man. Sorry. It's okay. The headscarf man smiled. After Chen Zhao and the others left, the headscarf man touched his lips. So embarrassing. The headscarf man walked out of the airport and stopped before a business car. A woman got out of the car. It was Lei Yang's secretary. Mr. Eric, hello? I'm Asalisa. I'm the organizer of the Superpower Anti-Terror Team. I'll also be the deputy leader of the Superpower Anti-Terror Team and help manage the team. That means you're my superior, right? Eric asked. Asalisa looked at Eric. I'm not a spiritualist, but if you think you're good at management, I don't mind letting you be the deputy leader. Don't joke around. I'm only good at fighting and killing. Eric shook his head. Apart from being the deputy leader, Asalisa was also helping the anti-terror team monitor the superpower anti-terror team. After all, Leon was already furious that the supernatural organization had gone out of control. Leon couldn't let the team he built go out of control again. Can you bring me to see my friends? As for the team leader, I need to confirm if he is qualified to be the team leader. I'm here to pick you up and meet the other members, Asalisa said. Get in the car. As the commercial car drove to the suburbs, Eric couldn't help but ask, Where are we going? The headquarters of the Superpower Counterterrorism Unit. How remote? This is also for the concealment of the CTU, Asalisa said. This headquarters was originally an abandoned military base, but it has been renovated. I believe that you will like it there. After an hour of driving, the car arrived in the wilderness. There was a rocky slope in front of them. A crack suddenly appeared on the rocky slope, and the automatic doors slowly rose up. This base was once a weapons warehouse guarded by an army of 3,000. Asalisa and Eric got out of the car. Originally, it had a history of 50 to 60 years, but after the renovation, it was filled with a sense of technology. It was just like those high-tech laboratories in the movies. How many people are there in the Superpower Counterterrorism team? Do you really need such a big base? Currently, there are 6 official members, including you. However, your superior department has assigned you a logistics team of more than 100 people. Asalisa brought Eric to a conference hall. There were already 5 people sitting inside. 4 men and 1 woman. Each of their clothes was quite unique. Eric found a random seat and sat down. He immediately went to the black-haired woman next to him. Hello, I'm Eric. Can you give me your number? The black-haired woman crossed her legs and looked listless. Her eyes were terrifyingly gloomy. The black-haired woman silently turned her head to look at Eric. Heedless. Eric immediately lost interest in this woman. She was wearing an aura that made people very uncomfortable. And her name made Eric feel even more uncomfortable. The 6 of you are meeting for the first time. You can get to know each other, Asalisa said, standing at the front of the conference table. Please speak to your leader. The big guy sitting at the front stood up. I'm your leader. You can call me Pan En. Just like my name, I represent the faun in ancient Greek mythology, and I'm a beast druid. I'm good at transformation magic. If any of you have any objections or think that I'm not qualified to be your leader. Panon's body began to grow bigger and longer, and then turned into a 10-meter-long python. Panon's incarnation looked at everyone. If you think I'm not qualified, you can come up and challenge me. Everyone's expressions froze. Osalisa looked at Panon. Leader, can you return to your human form? Panon returned to his human form and sat back in his seat. Now introduce yourselves one by one. I'm Deltori. I'm good at petrification magic. Another man stood up and said. Petrification like Medusa? Someone asked. That's the ultimate form of petrification magic. I can't petrify enemies with my eyes yet. The stronger the enemy's magic power, the harder it is to petrify them, Deltori said. At this time, the woman called Helis stood up. I'm Helis the Tomb Keeper. Everyone's eyes couldn't help but focus on Helis. They were all from the supernatural world. Of course, they knew what a tomb keeper was. In the past, tomb keepers were also called necromancers, the most ominous magic. Eric finally understood why it was so uncomfortable to sit next to Hallis. It was because of the death aura on her body. Eric felt that he had to wash his body when he got back and get rid of the bad luck on him. Do any of you want to see my magic? Everyone shook their heads. No one wanted to see the death magic up close. The death magic wasn't targeted at them, but it still carried the aura of death. It was inevitable that they would be contaminated. Being contaminated with the aura of death might cause a serious illness if it was less, but if it was more, it might affect their lifespan. All right, Harris, sit down. I don't think anyone will question your strength, Osalisa said. Who's next? Can I introduce you? Eric stood up. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric. I'm the Almighty Wizard. Chapter 905. What's an Almighty Wizard? Everyone looked at Eric in confusion. I can copy any spell as long as I come into contact with the user's body, Eric said. Any spell? Everyone exclaimed and looked at Eric in disbelief. Not all. For example, I can't copy bloodline spells, Eric said. And according to the difference in magic power, if the magic power is stronger than mine, then I will not be able to compare with the original. If the magic power is weaker than mine, then I can release the same magic more powerful. Eric looked at Panon. Team leader, can I get in touch with you? Panon reached out his hand, and Eric took it. Then, Eric's body began to change, and he turned into a brown bear. No wonder you're called an Almighty Wizard. Panon nodded. But your magic power looks ordinary. I'm a wizard. I'm not strong in magic power. Eric didn't deny it. After Eric sat down, the fifth member stood up. I'm Woodley, a support-type wizard. I have absolute vision. As long as I lock onto someone, no matter where they are, I can see their movements. What do you need to do to lock onto them? First of all, I have to get close to the target and leave a mark on them. Then I can leave them alone. The sixth person stood up and said, I'm Hans Altair. My magic is metal magic. I can control metal. Like Magneto? Everyone looked at Hans Altair. Humans can't be as powerful as they are in the movies, but I can still do some of Magneto's abilities, Hans Altair said. At the same time, he opened his palm, and iron beads appeared in his palm. I can kill more than a dozen people in an instant. For me, as long as these beads are around, it's like I have an endless supply of bullets. Unless you run out of magic power, Panon said. Releasing and controlling a dozen iron beads at the same time must be a big test for your magic power. Hans Altair nodded and sat down again. Very good. You're now members of the Superpower Counterterrorism Unit, Osalisa said. Miss Osalisa, I want to know why the Anti-Terrorist Operations Department suddenly formed us, Panon asked. We're a subordinate department of the government's Anti-Terrorism Action Department? Or a subordinate of the International Supernatural Alliance? You're a private organization in name, but you're actually part of the anti-terrorist operations department, Asalisa said. What about the supernatural organization? Them? They have completely severed all ties with the Anti-Terrorist Action Department because they violated the arrangements of the Anti-Terrorist Action Department. Everyone looked at each other. There was a complicated look in his eyes. After all, an organization controlled by the government was not that pleasant. Moreover, their abilities are very weak. The Anti-Terrorism Action Department doesn't think that their existence is valuable. You are their replacements. Your combat power and strength are far higher than theirs. Everyone accepted this with a peace of mind. They were all rather prideful people. They all had the mentality of, heaven is the boss, and I'm the second. At this moment, Asalisa's phone rang. Hello, Minister, what's up? Asalisa, how's the superpower anti-terrorist unit? I've already met them. They're all very capable people. It won't be a problem for them to replace this supernatural organization. Very good. Now we have a mission. A group of mysterious people has appeared in L.A. They're attacking people everywhere. Currently, dozens of people have been attacked. These mysterious people will penetrate people's abdomens with their palms and then take out strange red beads. Capture these people. This is the first operation of the superpower anti-terrorist unit. Don't disappoint me. Yes, Minister. Asalisa looked at everyone. There's a mission. In the plane, the captain made an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, the plane has entered Canadian airspace. We will arrive in Montreal in 3 hours. I hope that you have a pleasant flight. 2 stewardesses pushed a dining cart out. Black Ma and White Ma pounced at them. At first, the 2 stewardesses were quite frightened by the beasts. But later they realized that the beasts were not interested in them. They were more interested in the food they provided. Qin Zhao stuck out his leg and tripped Black Ma and White Ma. Don't run around on the plane. If you do, I'll break your legs. Black Ma and White Ma climbed up, feeling wrong. They carefully ran to the stewardess cart. Sitting beside him, Fei Lai slapped Qin Zhao. Do you have to make things difficult for them? Only then will I, the master, have a sense of existence. You find your sense of existence in your pets? Louis looked at King Kong, who was curled up beside him. There were piles of fruits around it. King Kong didn't stay idle on the way either. It kept eating. Chen, is it your new pet? Yes. Qin Zhao nodded. It looks really powerful, Louis said, touching his right arm. I feel that Blackie is a bit scared of it. Under normal circumstances, it should be the second strongest, Qin Zhao said. King Kong's original body had been summoned to the human world. Under normal circumstances, it would definitely be stronger than the projections of other demons. However, it was still weaker than Amon. Amon was just a projection, but even so, it was still the strongest. After everyone got off the plane, a gust of cold air hit them. Although they were mentally prepared, they were still caught off guard by the chill. Qin Zhao was probably the only one who wasn't affected. Carrie, on the other hand, was even stronger. She liked the climate here more than anyone else. Abitos, on the other hand, disliked the demons here the most. He was a fire dragon. He didn't like any cold. If it was in hell, a place's climate could affect a fire dragon. Then, the fire dragon would ignite the entire area and change the climate. The princess's family was more able to accept it. The brown bear's original living environment was similar to this kind of place. There were fewer brown bears in California because the temperature here was warmer. Brown bears preferred colder areas. After leaving the airport, the car waiting for them was already ready. Let's go. I've already arranged a hotel for you. Don't tell me you're staying next to us. No. Louis shook his head. That's more like it. Qin Zhao didn't like a third wheel beside him. Chapter 906. Of course, Qin Zhao's worries were unnecessary. After arriving in Montreal, Louis went to do his own things. After resting in the hotel for a night, Jerlin had basically gotten used to Montreal's temperature the next day. The sun was bright and the temperature had risen slightly. It should be above 0 degrees Celsius. Chen, I heard there's a Chinatown here, Fei Lai asked. Do you want to go there today? Because she loved Qinzhao, she was very interested in studying China's culture. Although her Chinese level was still very poor, she still wanted to go to Chinatown for a stroll. Sure. Qinzhao had never been to Chinatown abroad. When he'd gone to San Francisco, he'd been focused on Jerlin and her mother's matter. That was why he hadn't gone to Chinatown. Since he was here to play, Qinzhao didn't want to miss this opportunity. But before he left, he needed to find someone to take care of the pets. In the end, he spent $2,000 to find a trainer who used to work at the zoo. At first, the trainer was very confident, but when he saw Qinzhao's pets, he was still shocked. Fortunately, this beast tamer's mental fortitude was quite good. At least he knew how to observe beasts. After confirming that there was no danger, he still accepted the temporary job. Montreal's China City was very big. Fei Lai bought many Chinese handicrafts in Chinatown. However, Chen Zhao could tell that most of them were produced by an assembly line. Of course, Fei Lai was enjoying it, so Chen Zhao didn't bother to correct her. It was fine as long as she was happy. Fei Lai stopped in front of a musical instrument shop. Pointing at a zither, she asked, Chen, is that a musical instrument? Yes. It looks beautiful. Let's buy it and put it in the living room, okay? Sure. Qin Zhao didn't know how to play, but the zither looked beautiful. This guzheng was very big, longer than a normal guzheng. Normal zither were about 163 centimeters long, but this one was probably 180 centimeters long. Qin Zhao and Fei Lai entered the musical instrument shop. It sold all ancient Chinese musical instruments. The owner was a middle-aged man with a goatee. Hi, how much is this zither? Chen Zhao asked in English. The middle-aged man had yellow skin, but Chen Zhao didn't know if he knew Chinese. Furthermore, Montreal had two official languages, the French and English regions. Do you know how to play? The middle-aged man asked in Mandarin. I don't understand. Chen Zhao wondered if he had met someone who said, Don't buy something you don't understand. Then what did you buy it for? Leave it as a decoration in the living room. This guzheng is expensive, and it's old, so it's not suitable to be used as a decoration. I have to wipe it with an oilcloth every month. If you buy this guzheng, you're asking for trouble. The loss outweighs the gain. If you want to use it as a decoration, I can recommend you a few slightly cheaper ones. Although they're machine processed, they're all qualified, and the shape and decoration are very beautiful. What's the price? Qin Zhao still didn't give up. Since Fei Lai liked the zither at first sight, as long as it wasn't a few $100,000, Chen Zhao felt that he could buy it. $12,000. Are you sure you want to buy it? The middle-aged man asked. Yes, can you pack it for me? Chen Zhao asked. It was rare for Chen Zhao to be so forthright as to buy something without even talking about the price. Papa. Jerlin wanted to get off the ground. Because of the low temperature, Jerlin was wrapped up like a meat dumpling. Qin Zhao put Jerlin on the ground, and she went straight for the guzheng lying in the middle of the living room. Qin Zhao reached out and patted the strings of the guzheng. He hurriedly stopped Jerlin. It wasn't that he was afraid that she would break the guzheng, but that the guzheng's strings were very sharp. He didn't want to hurt Jerlin. The little angel beside little Jerlin stopped on the strings of the zither. Your daughter? The middle-aged man asked. Yes. She seems to like it. If she's willing to learn in the future, I'll help her find a teacher. Qin Zhao said, smiling. This music score is for you. The middle-aged man placed a book before Qin Zhao. Thank you. Thankfully, the music shop had a delivery service. After paying, Qin Zhao didn't have to carry the huge guzheng on the road. The shop delivered it directly to the hotel. Chen, don't you think this shop is very mysterious? Fei Lai asked. Qin Zhao looked back at the music shop. Why do you ask? I've learned China's feng shui, Fei Lai said seriously. This shop happens to be 99 steps after we enter Chinatown. 9 is called the extreme number in Taoism, and 99 is also called the extreme. Extreme yang gives birth to yin, and extreme yin gives birth to yang, and magnolia gives birth to yang. When you look up, you'll see the warm sun in your heart, and there are green bamboos before you to block the cold wind. That's why this shop is the legendary feng shui land of yin and yang. If you're not fated, you might not be able to find this shop. I also fell in love with this guzheng at first sight, so I think this is the guidance of fate. Fei Lai, let's read some proper books in the future, okay? You're saying that I'm not reading proper books? Feng shui is the treasure of your Chinese heritage. You're Chinese, and you don't agree with your heritage? Chen Zhao wanted to cry, but no tears came out. A foreigner pointed at his nose and said that he was forgetting his roots. It was a terrible feeling. I think that the feng shui books that you can find are basically worthless. Chen Zhao felt that Fei Lai's hobbies had become more extensive after she got pregnant. In the past, Chen Zhao really didn't realize that Fei Lai knew feng shui. Moreover, Chen Zhao was even more curious about how she could read those obscure feng shui books when she could only understand 3 out of 10 Chinese words. Do you think I'm spouting nonsense? Fei Lai stared at Chen Zhao, unwilling to let him go. No, definitely not. I believe you. You just don't believe me. Fei Lai was like a child, her cheeks puffed up. I already said that I believe you. Your tone has already exposed your inner thoughts. You don't believe me. Fei Lai stared at Chen Zhao stubbornly. Let's go back and ask the owner of that shop. Let's see what he said and whether his shop has feng shui. Chen Zhao turned back. Huh, where's the music shop? Huh? Where did it go? Fei Lai also realized that the shop was gone. Chen Zhao walked to the original music shop, but it was long gone. There was only a towering red brick wall. Chapter 907. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai realized that they really couldn't find the shop. That's weird. Chen Zhao was confused. Chen, this is magic, right? Yeah. Chen Zhao felt that if he answered that he didn't know, Fei Lai would definitely look down on him. So, he forced himself to answer yes. Can we find that music store again? We'll meet again if we're fated. If not, we can't force it. But if the zither we bought is broken, who can we find? When they returned to the hotel, the staff told them that they had stored their goods. It was the zither that had been deposited with them. The zither's origin was unknown and the shop owner was very mysterious. However, Chen Zhao didn't feel any malice. Little Angel didn't feel any danger or malice from the zither. Also, Jerlin and Fei Lai liked the zither very much. Don't think that they don't know anything. Actually, one's intuition was very sharp. On the other hand, the second choice would be different. In Santa Monica Park, the members of the Superpower Anti-Terror Team had gathered. There were many tourists here, so they hadn't found the target yet. 100 meters to your left, there's a man wearing a felt hat and a trench coat. He's the target. Asalisa's voice sounded in the earpiece. Asalisa's voice came through the headset. At this moment, Asalisa was commanding the car and providing them with information. There are too many tourists here, Panan said. It's not convenient to attack here. But if we don't attack now, Hans said, once he sneaks into the crowd, it'll be hard to find him. I'm confident that I can kill him instantly. Hans was very confident, but Panan still shook his head. No, we don't know anything about his abilities right now. Let me do it, Woodley said. I'll go and leave a mark on him. Won't we be discovered? No one can discover my mark, Woodley said. It's not an offensive spell. All right then. Be careful. Woodley nodded and walked toward the man in the trench coat. When he was about 10 meters away from the man in the trench coat, Woodley changed his direction and turned back. Why aren't you attacking? Panan asked, frowning. It's done. It's done. That's right. Now that I've obtained his absolute vision, he can't escape my eyes no matter where he goes, Woodley said. You guys don't have to keep staring at him. It'll be easier for him to notice you guys. He's starting to move. He's gotten into a car. Come on, let's get in the car too. Don't follow so closely. Trust me, he can't escape, Woodley said. Turn right at the intersection ahead. Everyone realized that it was indeed much more convenient with Woodley around. He didn't have to worry about losing his target. The superpower anti-terror team followed them all the way to the suburbs. We can catch up now, Woodley said. Hey, he's carrying a box. Another person dressed like him has appeared. Woodley, take this box and go to the deepest safe room in the headquarters. Woodley was a support-type spiritualist, after all. In this kind of head-on confrontation, his role was very limited. Are you ready to fight? Of course, we'll kill as many of these things as they come, Hans Altair said disapprovingly. By the way, I haven't seen Helis fight yet, Eric said. Helis, do you want to try? Helis' expression was as cold as ever. I feel a huge aura approaching. As long as we work together, there's no enemy we can't deal with. Panjian mobilized before the battle. Chapter 908. These faceless monsters have already killed many people. Let's go help them quickly. Otherwise, all of our logistics will die. Didn't you want to see my necromancy? Helis asked. Everyone stopped in their tracks and turned to look at Helis. Helis looked at the surveillance footage on the wall and started casting spells at the screen. Everyone could feel powerful magic being released from Helis' body. On the screen, the logisticians who had died actually stood up again. Then, they started attacking the faceless monsters. Eric's eyes lit up. Let me borrow your magic. You better not touch me, Helis said. Eric's hand paused in midair awkwardly. Helis, Eric is just thinking about the team. There's no need to be so petty, Panan said. Necromancy is forbidden. Do you know why it's forbidden? Why? Because the living can't cast it. Without a special bloodline, they will die as soon as they come into contact with necromancy, Helis said coldly. Not everyone can withstand the aura of death. Then I won't lend it to you. Eric retracted his hand, embarrassed. Eric, do you want me to lend you my magic? Hans Altair asked. Eric hadn't decided whose magic he wanted to borrow. But just then, the situation at the gate changed in an instant. A huge shadow suddenly appeared in the grass in front of the gate. What's that? The shadow was very fast. It charged into the battlefield directly. Under the light of the gate, everyone saw the creature clearly. It was a huge creature that looked like a female. It was naked. There was no nose, eyes, or ears on its face, only a mouth. Its body was fat and swollen, and there were 3 pairs of breasts on its chest. Its limbs were swollen, but it was very agile. What exactly is that? Apart from seeing that it was a female creature, they had no idea what it was. Just then, the female creature spat out a green liquid. Be it its subordinates, the resurrected corpses, or the logisticians who were stubbornly resisting the invaders, they all came into contact with the green liquid. All the creatures that came into contact with the green liquid were mutating, including its subordinates. When its hands came into contact with the green liquid, they began to mutate. The windbreakers on their bodies began to tear, and then they turned into giant furry monsters with only a mouth and no other facial organs. The resurrected corpses had turned into crawlers with an extra tail and a split in the middle of their heads that looked like a mouth. They might not be the strongest, but their appearance was the most terrifying. They looked like the ghouls in the movies. Their limbs were like the legs of a table, and they began to crawl around. There were also those who used to be logistics personnel. After coming into contact with the green liquid, they actually became new faceless monsters. Shoo shoo, the gigantic broodmother let out a strange cry. The trolls, crawlers, and faceless monsters all surged into the tunnel of the base. Everyone's faces turned extremely ugly. Asalisa, call for backup. I've already called for backup, but I don't think there's much hope. Asalisa's voice came from the headset. You want to give up on us? Panen's expression became extremely ugly. I'm also in the base. Do you think I won't call for backup? Or do you think I'm not afraid of death? Then why? Who do you think can help us? Asalisa asked in return. Unless the army uses weapons of mass destruction. But this place is too close to L.A., and there are a lot of weapons hidden in the deepest part of the base. There's no way they'll use weapons of mass destruction. Asalisa paused for a moment before continuing. The other one is the Anti-Terrorist Operations Department. The Anti-Terrorist Operations Department doesn't have the ability to deal with these monsters. You were originally formed to deal with these monsters. Then what do we do? Fight, Asalisa said. Also, if the members of the supernatural organization are willing to help, we might have a chance to survive. Boom, boom. Outside the conference room, there was a violent roar. The monsters had already reached here. Director, these monsters are very dangerous. They can also infect ordinary people and turn them into faceless monsters. Asalisa contacted Leang. Then formed the Superpower Anti-Terrorism Unit and eliminate these monsters. Leang said. Director, I'm afraid they can't do it. They can't even protect themselves right now, Asalisa said. Asalisa said. Also, if these monsters come into contact with the armory hidden at the bottom of the base, the consequences will be unimaginable. Leang's expression suddenly became extremely ugly. Then I'll organize people to eliminate them. Minister, if you want to send the anti-terrorism special forces, you'd better forget it. Once they come into contact with the mutated venom released by the Matrix, they will become the monster's companions. According to the preliminary assessment, even a rocket launcher will not be able to hurt the Matrix. Unless weapons of greater destruction are used, it will be difficult to cause any damage to the Matrix. The anti-terrorism special forces can't fight this kind of monster. So you're saying that we can't deal with this monster at all? There's the supernatural organization, Asalisa said. Them? Those traitors. Do you think I'll beg them? Leang roared. I'll never bow down to that Chinese. Never. Fine, Asalisa said helplessly. She was also trapped in the base, and the supernatural organization was her last hope. Leang roared for a while and finally calmed down. What's the situation now? It's very bad. Half of the logisticians in the base have been turned into monsters by the mother. Our newly formed team has no chance of winning at all. I also hope they can win, but the situation doesn't look good. Leang's eyes flickered. Can we seal the base? We can't. The entrance to the base has been completely destroyed, and it was destroyed while it was sealed. This monster is too powerful. Asalisa, what should I do? Do I really have to beg that bastard Chinese? You're the director. You have the final say. Even Leang could hear the resentment in Asalisa's voice. After all, no one would be happy to be abandoned in the base like a chess piece. Chapter 9-10. West, tell the president that I'm in the wrong this time. Sorry, I don't have the president's number. Mr. Leon, good night. West hung up on Leang exasperated. Leon smashed and flipped the office. West had never been so proud. In the past, he'd always been a yes man to Leon. Now, he suddenly realized that Leon was just a paper tiger. But thinking about it more carefully, it wasn't that he'd gotten tough. He had someone backing him up. As long as Qin Zhao was there, he wouldn't have to worry about not being able to support the supernatural organization. West thought for a moment, and was about to pick up the phone to call Qin Zhao. But when he thought of Qin Zhao's bad temper when he woke up, he gave up on the suicidal idea. Qin Zhao couldn't do anything to him in Canada now. But when Qin Zhao returned to Los Angeles, he'd be dead. Whatever, Leon was the one with a headache. He didn't need to be Leon's scapegoat. Let Leon, that old thing, worry about it. What should he do? Lower his head to Qin Zhao? Lower his head to Qin Zhao? He might as well kill him. After thinking about it, Leon picked up the phone. Tell Klaus. 20 minutes later, Liang's phone rang. Hello, it's Klaus, Mr. Liang. There's a dangerous mission. You have the right to refuse. I'm least afraid of danger, Klaus replied. The missions in the past year have been too dull. I wanted to give my team a little excitement. Klaus, I hope you can put away your arrogance. This mission is different from yours and your team's mission. Ha! Every time my team and I accept a new mission, you always say that it's different, but to us, it's nothing different, Klaus said, unconcerned. Well, you accept it, don't you? Of course, Klaus answered without hesitation. You can equip yourself with the largest caliber firearms. You can carry any kind of weapon, even TNT bombs. Your mission is to infiltrate a base and install a bomb. Liang paused for a moment and said, What you are facing this time might not be humans. What do you mean? Literally. Be careful. When you reach the designated location, install the bomb, retreat, and detonate it. When do we move? The faster, the better. Remember, the more powerful your weapons and equipment, the better. All right, I'll go gather my team now. The Lightning Squad was part of the Anti-Terrorist Operations Department. At the same time, it was also the most elite team in the Special Forces of the Anti-Terrorist Operations Department. There were a total of 12 members, and every member of the Lightning Squad was an elite among the elites. Just how elite were they? Each of them had the strength to fight a team of terrorists alone. Their captain, Klaus, had an even more terrifying battle record. Klaus had been a member of the Marine Corps before joining the Counterterrorism Special Forces. During the YLK War, he was also an ordinary soldier. At that time, the team he was in encountered a well-planned trap during an operation. At that time, the entire team of more than 10 people was almost completely wiped out. Only he and another heavily injured teammate were left. However, he relied on his outstanding strength to kill all the enemies, and then carried his teammates away. Klaus, what's our mission this time? If you can't give me a satisfactory answer, I'll install a landmine under your bed. Klaus, in response to your call, I just broke up with my girlfriend. You have to take responsibility. Mission: head to a former military base abandoned by the U.S. Army, install a bomb, and detonate it. Klaus said. According to the higher-ups, there seems to be an unknown enemy in this military base, and it might not be human. Crazy, I'd better go back and coax my girlfriend. Unknown enemy? Could it be aliens? Did aliens invade Earth? Haha, it's time to save Earth. I don't know what's going on exactly, but from the tone of that old man Leon, it seems like the situation this time isn't right, so it's better for us to be careful. He always uses this tone to make us pay attention, but none of the missions are difficult. Since the formation of our Lightning Squad until now, not a single person has been sacrificed. Suma, you can use this opportunity to sacrifice yourself. That way, I can cry for you. Haha. Klaus looked at his teammates, none of them serious. He also had a headache over this. But they were all the best, and they were used to indulging themselves. Even when carrying out a mission, they could do as they pleased. Okay, you can choose any weapon you want, as long as you can carry it. Any kind of weapon? Is an RPG okay? Of course, an RPG was not a game RPG. It was an individual anti-tank rocket, short for rocket propelled grenade. The RPG was also known as the king of infantry weapons. In short to medium-range battles, the RPG was a fatal threat to small groups of enemies and fortress-type enemies. Yes. No way? Could it be that aliens really invaded? Okay, less nonsense. Hurry up and go to the armory to choose a weapon. Then I'll really take the RPG. Fuck, why are you taking the white phosphorus grenade? This thing is too dangerous. The power of the white phosphorus grenade might be a lot weaker than many weapons of mass destruction, but in terms of cruelty, the white phosphorus grenade surpassed them. After all, to be listed as a forbidden weapon in the International Convention, none of them were easy to deal with. When the white phosphorus grenade exploded, it would release a large amount of white smoke. And as long as one's skin came into contact with the white phosphorus, It would burn crazily on the skin until it burned through the flesh, all the way to the bones. The white phosphorus grenade was known as the White Hellfire, and it was not an undeserved reputation. Not only was this thing hated by the enemy, but the user was also very dangerous, so it was not without reason that it was listed as a forbidden weapon. "You're still talking about me, your 10 clips are all empty bullets." Another forbidden weapon, empty bullets were probably the cruelest bullets, because the bullet head was like a flower petal. When it hit a person's body, the force would be completely released in the person's body, as if there was a meat grinder inside the body. If it hit the thigh, there would be no need for amputation. If it hit the main part of the body, the death rate was 100%. Klaus' cheeks twitched. Although Leon said that any weapon could be used. But if it was exposed that they were using forbidden weapons, it would definitely be big trouble. These bastards really did not know how to restrain themselves. Thinking of this, Klaus picked up the portable thermostatic grenade launcher. Chapter 9:11. Let's go here. Team Lightning arrived outside the base. A few hours ago, there should have been a huge battle here. The smell of gunpowder still lingers in the air. But why are there no corpses? Did you find any enemies? Klaus asked. No, the thermal sensors did not detect any heat source. Let's go in. Klaus gave the order. Although their footsteps were hurried, they entered the base in an orderly manner. The base was brightly lit, and there were bloodstains on the ground and walls. There were also some potholes caused by bombs and bullets. However, there were no corpses. The long and narrow passageway was so silent that it made one shudder. Everyone took off their night vision goggles. This is completely different from the previous missions. What a bright environment. Other than a few broken overhead lights, most of the passageway was very bright. Both sides of the passageway were filled with transparent glass rooms. It looked like an office area. Klaus raised his head to look at both sides. Then, he took out his pistol and fired off the surveillance camera above his head. Is there any response from the thermal sensors? No. Klaus waved his hand. Let's go, hurry up. They had been moving very carefully. After walking for a while, a path without lights appeared before them. At that moment, they suddenly heard the sound of footsteps coming from the front. Klaus waved his hand. Although Team Lightning usually appeared to be frivolous, they were able to execute orders in an instant. Everyone stopped. The 3 people in front pointed their machine guns forward. At the same time, the overhead lights began to flicker, emitting an extremely unstable voltage sound. There seemed to be a person standing in the darkness before them. Come out! Come out! Immediately! Klaus shouted at the person in the darkness. The others raised their weapons and aimed them at the voice. The person slowly walked out from the darkness. His head was tilted and his entire body was covered in blood. His eyes were white and the sides of his mouth were split open. Blood was still dripping down. His entire face revealed a very strange smile. The person's footsteps were unsteady and there were slight spasms. What's wrong with this person? Did he take too many drugs? Haha, can you be like this after taking drugs? This person was none other than Hans Altair. However, at that moment, he was no longer himself. Just then, Hans Altair suddenly bent over and vomited. A large amount of liquid came out. Disgusting. Everyone covered their noses and stepped back. But at this moment, a sharp metal suddenly pierced through Hans Altair's back. Everyone was shocked, not understanding what was going on. The next moment, another metal rod pierced through his back, then a third, a fourth. At the moment, Hans Altair was like a hedgehog with metal spikes all over his back. Open fire! Open fire! Klaus's mind instantly recalled Leon's words. They were not facing humans this time. Da-da-da! The bullets hit Hans Altair's body, but at the moment, Hans Altair seemed to be made of iron. The bullets could not penetrate him at all. The bullets hit him in a shower of sparks. Hans Altair crouched down and pointed the spikes on his back at them. Puff! 2 metal spikes shot out. Dodge! The metal spike instantly shot out, and everyone hurriedly dodged. "Mo Shao, white phosphorus grenade, quick!" Bang! The white phosphorus grenade released a large amount of white smoke, and Hans Altair's body instantly started burning. His skin was quickly burned away, revealing the metallic flesh underneath. However, the white phosphorus grenade also caused Hans Altair a lot of pain. He howled and rushed back into the darkness. "Fuck, is it really an alien?" "Stop talking," Klaus said with a serious expression. "Hurry up and go to the designated location to install the bombs, then blow this place up." At this moment, a loud noise came from above their heads. Everyone raised their heads, vigilantly pointing their guns at the ceiling above their heads. "They're in the ventilation duct." Da-da-da, one of the team members fired first. The ceiling was pierced through, and a body fell down. It was a human, or at least it should have been a human in the past. But its head was split in half, and it looked like a mouth. Its limbs were slender, and its body was covered with thin green hair. There were 2 bull-sized holes in its chest, which were the effects of empty bullets. There were also some ragged cloth strips on its body. One could vaguely see that it was once a human. Everyone's expression was very bad. They had clearly not experienced this kind of situation before. Nor had they encountered an enemy like this. Suddenly, the crawler that should have been dead jumped up without any warning. It lay on the nearest team member and bit his neck. This team member's movements were also very fast. The moment he bit through the skin, he counterattacked. He raised a leg and kicked away, then shot the crawler in the head. "Fandari, are you okay?" "I'm fine, just a little bit of skin." The other team members sprayed anti-inflammatory medicine on his neck. "Do you feel any discomfort?" "No." "That's good. Keep moving, and be careful of the surroundings." Klaus nodded. "I knew it. Letting us choose our weapons freely is not a good thing," a team member complained. "Klaus, where do we install the bombs?" "The next level. That old man Leon probably plans to completely seal off this base by blowing up the second level, causing the mountain to fall and blocking the lower levels. Then why not use a bigger bomb? Just kill all the monsters here in one go. This used to be a weapons warehouse. There should be weapons that haven't been transported or destroyed in the lower levels. If we use that kind of bomb, it's very likely that all the weapons below will explode. When that happens, it might affect Los Angeles City." "Did you guys notice that this place looks like the hive in Resident Evil?" Everyone gulped. Someone laughed dryly. "According to what you said, then Fandari should be infected by the virus and become something like those monsters." Haha. Everyone laughed at Fandari, but at that moment, Fandari's expression did not seem right. Everyone's laughter froze. They subconsciously took a few steps back. Because at that moment, Fandari's expression was really not right. Fandari seemed to have realized something too. "Klaus, I feel like something's wrong. Give me a shot," Fandari said. "Stop joking. They're just talking nonsense." Chapter 9:12. The sun is bright and the air is fresh. I like it here. Qinzhao opened his arms to embrace the light. It was a lively city, although the weather was a bit cold. Nevertheless, the city was full of energy. Of course, Feilai and Jerlin did not like it here. They'd been fish in their previous life. Montreal had beaches too, but most of the time, it was not suitable to go into the water. The hottest months, July and August, were only 20 degrees. Half of the year, it was below zero. They were almost dehydrated without water. Jerlin was about to lose her energy. Usually, she would soak in Mirror Lake for a few hours every day. Of course, as long as Qinzhao distracted her, she would become lively again. Qinzhao did not go out today, so Feilai took Jerlin shopping. They lay on the balcony of the hotel and enjoyed the warm sunlight. This was a vacation. There was nothing messy and no need to save the world. Just then, Qinzhao's phone rang. "Walter, Black Ma, help me see who's calling." "Woof woof. West? Help me hang up," Qinzhao said. West stared at the silent phone helplessly. He could only call again. Hello? Qin Zhao finally answered the call. I hope you're calling me with good news and not something to make me feel bad. Guild leader. You're cutting me off by saying something like that. Then don't say anything. I'm hanging up. No, don't hang up, West said hurriedly. To be more precise, I'm indeed calling you good news. Oh? What good news? That old guy Leon compromised. He called me yesterday. Is he compromising with you or me? West immediately realized that he'd said the wrong thing. Qin Zhao was the president. If someone had to compromise, it should be Qin Zhao, not him. He just can't let go of his pride, West said hurriedly. He wants me to pass a message for him. Then he hasn't completely compromised. Ignore him, Qin Zhao said lazily. Oh, have you guys decided where you're going for your vacation? Not yet. I think Hawaii is good, but they said it's too close. Money doesn't matter. We still have a lot of funds anyway. If you have family and friends who want to go with you, bring them along. Guild leader, what if Leon refuses to submit to you? Do you really want to dissolve the association? We won't disband, Qin Zhao said calmly. At most, we'll find a financial backer, a sponsor. All right then, I won't bother you anymore. West hung up the phone. Leon hadn't slept for the whole night. After the lightning team entered the base, there was no news of them. Leon could roughly confirm that the lightning squad had been completely annihilated. And the situation was starting to get complicated. If the thing inside came out, the entire city of Los Angeles would be in danger. Once that happened, it would be the end of his career as the head of the Anti-Terrorist Action Department. What to do? Was he really going to bow down to that Chinese? Most importantly, did he and his supernatural organization really have the ability to solve this problem? Leon had no confidence at all. Forget it, since I've already lowered my head to West. It was not impossible for him to bow his head to that China man again. As long as he could solve this problem and keep his position, he didn't mind kowtowing to West. Leon finally made up his mind. He called Qin Zhao. Mr. Qin. I don't buy insurance or health supplements. Thank you. With that, Qin Zhao hung up without giving the other a chance to speak. This asterisk shoal. He definitely did it on purpose. He definitely did it on purpose. Leon angrily smashed the phone again. After venting, Leon suppressed his anger and called Qin Zhao again. Didn't I say that I don't buy insurance? I'm not interested no matter what you sell me. Mr. Qin, I'm not a salesman. You're from a bank? I don't buy financial products either. I'm not from a bank either. I know. You're Dell. I'm not. Wait. Let me guess who you are. I've guessed it. Rasfa, right? No. Ethan? No. Louis? Chun, did you call me? Louis poked his head in. Qin Zhao waved his hand and continued teasing Leon. Mr. Qin, I don't want to waste time with you. Tell me, what do you want? What do you mean, what do I want? Do I know you that well? Qin Zhao said, pursing his lips. I can let bygones be bygones if you offended me. Please don't let bygones be bygones. It's all my fault. Sorry, bye. Qin Zhao didn't want to hear more. He hung up directly. It wasn't hard to imagine how terrible Liang's expression was right now. Calling Qin Zhao again, Liang said as quickly as he could, Mr. Qin, I'm sorry. I take back what I said before. I need you. Didn't you say you don't need me? Don't need the supernatural organization? What do you want? Attitude. You have to have the right attitude. There's a saying in China, stand firm when you're beaten. Admit your mistakes. Mr. Qin, I hope that the supernatural organization and the anti-terrorist operations department can resume their close relationship. First, I need to correct 2 of your mistakes. First, the supernatural organization and the anti-terrorist operations department have never been close. Second, have you ever heard of spilled water? Mr. Qin, I'm very sincere. Sincere? Sorry, I don't see any sincerity. Also, I've found a sponsor. He's very generous. He's already given us 10 million. From now on, the supernatural organization will be his personal thugs. How can we do that? After all, we need to eat too. You don't know how tight our funds are. I'll give you 15 million per year. No. You gave us 15 million, but we still have to give 10 million back to the sponsor. The remaining 5 million isn't enough. 20 million. We'll talk when it's in. Hearing that Leon would give them 20 million, Chen Zhao's expression changed immediately. Mr. Chen, I can't give it to you now. The Anti-Terrorist Operations Department also needs to wait for the National Defense Funds. We have to wait until January next year at the latest. Oh, I see. That's great. The supernatural organization is on vacation too. We can talk again in January next year. Leon was about to turn into a Spartan. He'd never seen someone so shameless. I'll go get the money for you now. Chen Zhao knew that the Anti-Terrorist Operations Department had always been the department with the most funds. Every government department in America was tight on funds. Only the Anti-Terrorist Operations Department never lacked funds. Because America often offended others, they had to be wary of them. Oh, by the way, our association's headquarters was attacked recently, causing it to be razed to the ground, so we still need some money to rebuild it. Pan En felt discouraged and helpless. At the same time, the reason why the Matrix did not care about Pan En and the other two hiding in the food storage warehouse was because it had more important things to do. That was to get back its own egg, which was still quite complete. It needed to open the defense door of the armory at the lowest level. Woodley had been locked up in there for a day and a night. During that time, he had been in a constant state of panic. The noises from the outside never stopped. More and more monsters were attacking the defense door. In the end, this defensive door was unable to withstand the attacks of these monsters, and the disc-shaped defensive door collapsed with a loud bang. The Matrix could not enter the armory, but the troll's body could. However, Woodley had already killed himself. If he had to die in the hands of these monsters, he would rather commit suicide. One of the troll brought the remaining dozen eggs to the Matrix. Mother! Good boy! The mother stretched out its hand and stuffed the monster into its mouth, along with the dozen or so eggs into its body. The Matrix's feet began to degenerate, followed by its arms. The Matrix's bloated body fell to the ground, moaning in pain. The monsters have retreated, Harold said. Retreated? You mean they've all left? No, not retreated, they've left the door, Harold said. Wait, let me use life detection to check. Harold closed her eyes and began to use magic. Not long after, Hela suddenly opened her eyes. Eric and Payne had thought that Harold would not have any other expression. But at this moment, they saw fear on Harold's face. Harold, what did you see? The mother is evolving. It has obtained the dozen eggs. What about Woodley? Dead, Harold said. All the monsters are gathered on the 5th and 6th floors. They are protecting the mother, said Helios. So we can go out. We can't. The outside is covered in green liquid left by the monsters, Harold said. As long as we come into contact with the green liquid, we'll be infected and transformed. So we still can't go. The green liquid contains vitality. It should be some kind of voodoo magic. I can corrupt it, Harold said. But it will take some time. How long? At least 2 days, Harold said. 2 days? If the Matrix hatches successfully, we'll be dead, Eric said. The Matrix is already so scary before it evolves. If it completes the transformation, I'm afraid we'll be dead. You can go out now, Harold said. As long as you're not afraid of becoming their kind, I won't stop you. Eric was terrified again. He had no choice. Those monsters were too scary. What do we do now? Open the warehouse door. How can I corrupt the liquid if we don't open it? Now? Open it? Will it be a trap? Payne and Eric were a bit scared. No, I believe in my magic, Harold said coldly. Payne and Eric both turned into giant bears, afraid that a large wave of monsters would attack when they opened the door. Fortunately, their worries were unnecessary. There was no one outside. But the walls of the corridor ahead were all covered in green liquid. Those monsters did not forget to discuss them before they left. Helith began to corrode the green liquid and released her magic power. Chapter 9:14. West, Gaia, Jalag, Angelit, Mor, Morid, Padalu, Pataya, Giselle, Jalanash, and the evil spirit group led by Pamela. Except for Aduz, they were all gathered at the entrance of the base. They didn't plan to hide, so they casually set up camp at the entrance. But they waited at the entrance for an entire night. Nothing happened. No monsters appeared. Gaia was a violent person. She came here to fight. But now, she was sleeping here, which made her very depressed. "I'll go in and take a look," Gaia said. "That's not good." "Yeah, Gaia, it's too dangerous. Let's wait for Chin." "Don't worry. If there's danger, I'll retreat," Gaia said and carried her great sword. Gaia strolled in the base. It was still brightly lit. Except for some obvious battle marks, most of it was well preserved. She walked around the first floor but didn't see anything. Just then, she found a hole in the floor of a conference hall. Without thinking, Gaia jumped into the hole. She walked around the second floor but still didn't see anything. Gaia found the elevator. It was still working. She went straight into the elevator. Just then, Gaia suddenly heard movement at the top of the elevator. She had already taken down her great sword. At the same time, she jumped up and peeled off the vent cover. Gaia didn't see a monster. Instead, she saw a few heavily armed people. "Who are you? Come down!" Klaus and the others were all shocked. They thought it was a monster. Unexpectedly, it was a tall woman. "Who are you?" "I'm here to clean up the mess," Gaia said. "Clean up the mess?" Klaus and the others looked at each other. They'd been hiding here for a day and a night. Because they'd suffered heavy losses here, they only had 5 people left. All 5 of them came down from the top of the elevator. Judging from their mental state, they seemed to be in good shape. They'd been hungry for a day and a night. But to them, this wasn't an unacceptable hunger index. They were the elites of the elites. Sometimes they'd starve for more than 2 days to carry out missions. They knew how to maintain their best stamina. Ding! The elevator stopped at the 5th floor below. "Where is this?" The expressions of Klaus and the others changed drastically. The elevator door opened to reveal a sea of crawlers and faceless monsters. A look of joy appeared on Gaia's face. "We've finally met a monster. You guys go first." With that, Gaia rushed out of the elevator and swung the sword in his hand. The eyes of Klaus and the others were wide open. What a fierce woman! In the face of such monsters, her first reaction was not to flee or to fear, but to charge straight into the group of monsters. However, Klaus and the others did not retreat immediately. Instead, they pointed their guns outside. Of course, they were covering for Gaia. If a monster attacked Gaia from behind, they would attack immediately. In current military operations, the soldiers' training criteria was to not give up on any battle, and not to give up on any teammates who had hope. Klaus and the others were real soldiers, so they wouldn't run away. 3 minutes later, Gaia rushed out of the horde again. But at this time, she was already injured. Gaia rushed into the elevator and said to Klaus, "Take the elevator up." Klaus and the others subconsciously took a step back and pointed their guns at Gaia. "What's wrong?" Gaia looked at Klaus in confusion. "Miss, if you're scratched or bitten by a monster, you'll become one of them," Klaus said without hiding anything. "Oh." Gaia calmly took out a potion and poured it into her mouth. "It's done. What are you drinking?" "My boss gave me a special potion," Gaia said. "Special potion? There's a special potion?" "Yes." Everyone looked at each other in disbelief. "Miss, which department are you from?" "It's none of your business." The elevator reached the 2nd floor, and Gaia led the way out. The others followed behind. Gaia said, "There's no need to be so cautious. I've checked the first and second floors. There aren't any monsters." Under Gaia's lead, everyone walked out of the base. This was the first time they breathed fresh air in a day. They found more than 10 people stationed at the door. West immediately ran over. "Gaia, how is it? There's a battle inside? Who are they?" "I tried. There are a lot of monsters, and they're not weak," Gaia said. "I can't defeat so many monsters alone. Looks like we can only wait for the president to come." West looked at Klaus and the others. "What about them? Who are they?" "They're living people I found inside. I haven't asked for their identities yet. We're from the Anti-Terrorist Operations Department." Klaus and the others realized that when these people heard that they were from the Anti-Terrorist Operations Department, their expressions became unfriendly. "Okay, you can go now," West said. "Miss, I want to stay and help you," Klaus said. "No, you won't be able to help," Gaia said. "No, maybe you don't know enough about the monsters inside," Klaus said seriously. "Although we don't have a comprehensive understanding of those monsters in battle, at least we've fought them before, so our knowledge is more comprehensive." West looked at Gaia. Gaia pondered for a moment and said, "Tell me. If you promise to stay, I'll tell you everything I know." "You won't be able to help if you stay," Gaia said. "I want to avenge my teammates." Klaus's gaze was serious. "Okay, tell me." West still agreed to Klaus's request. "You've only met normal crawlers and faceless monsters. There are 2 other monsters you haven't met," Klaus said. "One is a giant monster that evolved from faceless monsters. Their size, strength, and speed are 10 times stronger than faceless monsters. However, there are very few of them. We don't know exactly how many there are. We've only met 3. What else? The second type should be even fewer in number and more unique. I suspect that it's a mutation of people like you," Klaus said. "We used a white phosphorus grenade and injured one of them." Chapter 9:15. "President, it's a bit troublesome. Tell me the details," Qin Zhao said. At the moment, he was with Fei Lai, who was carrying Jerlin. They were checking tickets to enter the Montreal Swimming Sports Center. West began to talk about the location of the accident. Other than Gaia, who had gone in to investigate once, Moore had gone in again. Of course, he'd gone in with a clone. "Guildmaster, Moore's doppelganger has found out that the Queen is still in the incubation stage. However, according to the people we rescued, if we allow the monster to complete its incubation, it will bring about catastrophic consequences." "Don't worry," Qin Zhao said, unconcerned. "We'll go back tomorrow." "President, can't you come back tonight?" "I'm so tired from rushing through the night," Qin Zhao said. West was speechless. "Okay, I'll stop talking. I'm going to watch the competition." More and more people came to the swimming pool. But the first event wasn't the women's 800-meter. It was a celebrity competition. Basically, it was a performance event. Therefore, all the contestants were actually holding back some of their strength. Based on experience, Evely wasn't qualified. But as the champion of the women's 800-meter in this year's World Championship and the first woman to swim under 8 minutes, Evely was very famous. She'd broken the world record of the women's 800-meter freestyle by more than 10 seconds. No matter which country it was, there would be a new wave of God-making when a super athlete like her appeared. As a result, Evely became the favorite of international sports brands. Evely didn't actually rely on this to earn money. Her family was already very rich. But her current income was already very shocking. It was already the income of a superstar. Her family was rich, but being able to earn this without relying on her family was enough to show her achievements. Although the athletes in the performance event held back, they were all top or super athletes, so the competition level was still very high. They were basically at or close to the world championship level. Finally, it was the women's 800-meter freestyle. When the announcer announced Evely's name, The crowd immediately became excited. Many people had come for Evely. It was obvious how popular Evely was. Evely, go! Chen Zhao stood up with Jerlin on his head. This allowed Evely to capture Chen Zhao's figure more accurately. Plus, it was Evely who had given him the ticket. Evely knew where Chen Zhao was sitting. After seeing Chen Zhao, a smile appeared on Evely's face. When all the athletes were on the platform, the whole place quieted down. Bang! The moment the signal gun was fired, all the athletes entered the water at the same time. Evely was one body's length ahead of the other contestants. She didn't slow down at all. Instead, she maintained a high speed. The announcer's voice was very high because Evely was swimming too fast. Chapter 9:16. The camera focused on the audience where Chen Zhao was, but there were at least 1,000 people in that direction. Hence, nobody knew who Evely was referring to. After the urine test, Evely's result was sent to every corner of the world. Everyone was shocked by the news. A woman had broken the men's world record. Everyone called this record an inconceivable achievement. In order not to cause trouble for Chen Zhao, Evely didn't meet him after the race. She planned to thank Chen Zhao in person after returning to LA. Chen Zhao was also quite satisfied with Evely's result. After all, he had accepted Evely's money. If Evely didn't get a satisfactory result, he would be punished. He wouldn't feel at ease even if he took the money. Nevertheless, Evely still called Chen Zhao to express her gratitude. Chen Zhao was in a good mood, but Leon couldn't be happy at all. The problem of the superpower group still hadn't been solved. Leon couldn't help but call Chen Zhao again. Mr. Chen, why hasn't the supernatural organization solved the problem? No time. What do you mean, no time? I paid you. That's our budget. Don't say it's employment money. If you're saying it's a reward, I'll solve the problem for you right now, Chen Zhao said disapprovingly. Before the actual operation, we need to make a detailed deployment and plan. We can't just charge in blindly. We're professionals. Chen Zhao didn't think much of it. But I heard that you're still in Canada and watching a swimming competition. Yes. I'm in Montreal right now, so I can't fly back to LA immediately. Hearing Chen Zhao's shameless reply, Leon was about to have a heart attack. I don't care. You have to go back to LA immediately. I can't fly. I'll send a military plane to pick you up. Are you kidding? I'm not, Leon said. I can't wait anymore. I told you, we can't act blindly. We need strict arrangements. I'm begging you, hurry up, Leon growled. I was waiting for you to say that. Chen Zhao finally smiled brightly. I told you to beg me. I finally did it. Leon really wanted to smash the entire office. He had long regretted going against Chen Zhao in the first place. But it was too late for regrets now. When will the military plane arrive? Chen Zhao asked. Within 3 hours, Leon said. Okay, are we going to the airport? No, to the military base in Montreal. Are you sure that a foreigner like me can go to the military base of your allied countries? Don't worry, I will arrange everything. He hung up the phone with Leon. Chen Zhao looked at Fei Lai. Fei Lai, I'm going back to LA first. Ah? Isn't your flight tomorrow? There's an emergency in Los Angeles. I have to fly over to deal with it. Then I'll do it now. Don't. You and little Jerlin stay here first. It won't be too late to go back tomorrow. Flying through the night like this is too tiring for you. Tomorrow, you and the kids can take Louis's private plane. Don't take the passenger plane. If he couldn't go on vacation easily, he wouldn't bring Fei Lai out. After all, Fei Lai was pregnant and had little Jerlin with her. All right then. Fei Lai, I'm sorry. We said we were going out together, but I left you here alone. It's okay. I know you didn't do it on purpose. Then I'll go, Chen Zhao said. Okay. When Chen Zhao arrived outside the military base, he was stopped by a sentry. Stop. This is a military base. I was told to come here, Chen Zhao said. I'm Chen Zhao. The sentry picked up the phone and asked about the situation. A moment later, the sentry looked confused, but he still let Qin Zhao in. "Sir, please come in." Just then, an officer jogged over to Qin Zhao. "Hello, you must be Mr. Qin." "I'm Lieutenant Paul. I was ordered to pick you up." "Yes. When can we leave?" "Oh, I have a friend called Paul too." "Anytime." "Don't you need to wait for the air traffic control to arrange the departure time?" Qin Zhao asked curiously. Even a super-rich person like Louis couldn't have his private plane take off whenever he wanted. Paul rolled his eyes. He didn't know Qin Zhao's identity. But he couldn't help but say, "We're on a military mission. Do you think we need to report to the air traffic control?" "Fine." Paul brought Qin Zhao to a military transport plane. It was Qin Zhao's first time seeing such a big guy. He'd only seen it in movies before. It was the legendary Big Butt. "What model is this?" Qin Zhao asked curiously. "C-17. Paul said. "Go on." The C-17 military transport plane wasn't really a secret. After all, even China bought such planes. It didn't matter if it was a secret. Qin Zhao boarded from the butt of the C-17. He wasn't the only passenger. There were a dozen fully armed soldiers. "Hi, how are you?" The soldiers were all confused when they saw Qin Zhao walk up in casual clothes. The plane took off immediately after Qin Zhao boarded. The soldiers all sat upright. Qin Zhao was a bit bored. "Hey, say something. You guys look like you're going to war. Let me introduce myself. You can call me Chen. I'm a doctor." Seeing that no one was talking to him, Qin Zhao continued, "I bet that none of you can beat me in arm wrestling. I bet $100. Just then, a bald black man walked out. $100, right? Of course. Qin Zhao kicked a box over and placed it before the two. He placed his hand on the box. "Come." The atmosphere in the cabin finally became lively. "Lawson, kill him." But Qin Zhao's arm didn't move. "I'll pay another $100. Who wants to compete with me on the other hand?" "Fuck, you're too arrogant. I'll break your hand." Another soldier walked out and faced Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao and the two soldiers arm wrestled at the same time. The two soldiers used all their strength but couldn't break his wrist. "If you pay another $50, I'll allow you to use both hands," Qin Zhao said. "Fuck, are you looking down on our comrades?" Chapter 9:17. The two burly men exerted all their strength. They tried to pry open Qin Zhao's hands, but they couldn't move them. Finally, Qin Zhao used his strength and pressed the two men's hands down. "I won." "Fuck, why are you so strong?" "Actually, I'm a robot." "What?" Everyone's eyes widened. Qin Zhao stuck his fingers in his ears and made a twisting motion. "What are you doing?" "I'm opening a screw. Don't you want to see the structure of my brain?" Everyone stared at Qin Zhao with widened eyes. They all looked at Qin Zhao expectantly, wanting to see him open his head. "Fine, I'm joking." Everyone gave Qin Zhao a middle finger. "Bro, what do you do? Didn't I tell you? I'm a doctor." "Fuck, I don't believe doctors are as strong as you." The atmosphere in the cabin heated up. They formed a circle and chatted heatedly. Just then, Lieutenant Paul walked out of the cabin. "Mr. Chen, we've arrived at your destination." "Oh, when do we land?" "We didn't land. This is your parachute." Qin Zhao was speechless. "Your service is so bad." "No choice. We also have an emergency mission and can't land." "Okay, guys. If we meet again, I'll buy you a drink." "Buddy, take care." The soldiers all walked up and hugged Qin Zhao. There was no national boundary. In the cabin, Qin Zhao mingled with the soldiers. These soldiers all had cheerful and straightforward personalities. Qin Zhao carried the parachute bag. Just then, the cabin door opened. "Goodbye." Qin Zhao jumped out. "Lieutenant, where did Mr. Chen get his parachute?" "From Reserve Box 05. Is there a problem?" Lieutenant Box 05 has always been a storage box for damaged equipment. Huh? What? Lieutenant Paul exclaimed. Then just now. God bless Chen. Chen Zhao was now above 10,000 meters. His body was descending rapidly. The wind howled in his ears. It was Chen Zhao's first time landing at such a high altitude. In the distance, L.A. was brightly lit. Chen Zhao searched for a long time but couldn't find the rope. Fuck, where's the rope? Chen Zhao still couldn't find the rope. Fuck, did Lieutenant Paul do this on purpose? Just then, his phone rang. Hey Gaia, it's me. I'm already above you and I'm descending. Land? But the parachute seems to be broken. Do you have any airbeds or something like that down there? Are you kidding me? I'm not joking, Chen Zhao said awkwardly. Are you serious? Of course I'm serious. Fuck. Gaia hurriedly dropped the phone. West. Something happened. Everyone in the camp heard Gaia's voice and ran out. What happened? Chen, jump out of the plane now. Ah? Had the guild leader returned? I thought he would come back tomorrow. His parachute is broken. He's falling right over our heads. Are you joking? No. Do you have air mattresses? No. Why would we prepare such a thing? Then what do we do? Pray, West said. Hope that God will protect the guild leader. Klaus and the others looked at West's group. You're kidding, right? Everyone looked at Klaus and his team. Do we look like we're joking? Your guild leader is about to fall from the sky and you're not worried at all. But we don't have a solution. Do you have a solution? No. Gaia picked up the phone again and dialed Chen Zhao's number. Hey Chen, what height are you at now? I don't know the exact height, but I've fallen for a minute and a half. Falling from 10,000 meters will take about 3.5 to 4 minutes. We don't have any way to help you down there, so you can only save yourself. Klaus stared at Gaia, dumbfounded. He felt that Gaia was joking. In the absence of a parachute, there was no protection on the ground. Chen Zhao had to save himself? How could he? Wait, I have another call, Chen Zhao said over the phone. Klaus and his team's eyes almost popped out. You're still in the mood to pick up someone else's call at a time like this? Aren't you a little too ambitious? It was Fei Lai. She was asking if Chen Zhao had boarded the plane. Fei Lai thought that Chen Zhao had taken a normal commercial plane. After hanging up, Chen Zhao started saving himself. The dark serum formed a pair of wings on his back. However, he was falling too fast. The wings were blown apart. He couldn't maintain his form at all. The people on the ground kept looking up at the sky. Suddenly, Gaia had a flash of inspiration. Oh, I've thought of a solution. Everyone looked at Gaia. What solution? Water, Gaia said. We have a lot of water in our water reserve buckets. Klaus rolled his eyes. Miss Gaia, falling from 10,000 meters in the sky will result in the same thing as falling on the ground. It's different. Chen's body is very strong. He can endure this kind of impact. Falling on the water and the ground would result in the same thing at the moment of contact. However, as long as Chen Zhao could endure the impact, the water would be able to buffer and absorb the impact. If he fell on the ground wouldn't be able to absorb much of the impact. In the end, the water had a higher chance of survival. Gaia immediately ran to the water tower. It was a simple water tower that contained 6,000 liters of water. Extinguish all the lights in the camp. At the same time, he lit a torch beside the water tower and said to the phone, Chen, do you see the fire below? This is the water tower. If you can still change your direction, it's best to fall in this direction. At the moment, Chen Zhao could vaguely see the fire below from the sky. He was getting lower and lower. He was about to hit the ground. Chen Zhao abruptly changed his falling posture. He lowered his head and stretched out his arms, like a diver on a high platform. From Klaus and his teammates' point of view, it was an impossible feat. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.